Welcome to the grand finale of Adobe DITAWORLD 2023. Welcome to the third and last day. My name is Stefan Gentz, and it's my great pleasure to be your host again today at this largest technical communication event of the year. Together, alongside my esteemed co-host Matt Sullivan, we will embark on a journey that promises to be nothing short of extraordinary. Today, as we embark on this final day of our journey, we pause to marvel at the awe-inspiring knowledge and insights we have gathered over the past 2 days. From inspiring keynotes to enlightening customer success stories, we have witnessed the transformative impact of DITA and Adobe Experience Manager Guides, Adobe's component content management system, in reshaping the landscape of knowledge content, and that across diverse industries. Together, we have explored the frontiers of innovation, challenged conventional thinking, and unlocked the true potential of content operations. The connections we have forged, the wisdom we have gained, and the inspiration we have absorbed have ignited a flame driving us to reach new heights of excellence. But our journey does not end here. Today, we continue exploring new horizons, igniting fresh ideas and empowering ourselves with practical tips and tricks from our esteemed experts. It's truly intelligent content for an intelligent world. To set the stage for this remarkable day, I'm privileged to introduce our distinguished welcome note speaker, Gunnar Klauberg, Senior Product Specialist Manager at Adobe in Germany. Gunnar's expertise and insights will guide us as we delve into the immersive experience that awaits us today. As the day unfolds, we offer you an exceptional lineup of sessions. We will commence with a keynote address by Julian Murfitt, CEO of Mekon. His pioneering journey will trace the evolution of customer engagement and shed light on how Adobe solutions have driven transformative shifts. Prepare to be inspired by his profound knowledge and gain valuable insights into the future of the content and IT sectors. Next, we will delve into the captivating customer story of Ariel Corporation. Ronald, Egle, Content Systems Administrator at Ariel Corporation in the US, will share their unique challenges in managing and translating technical documentation. You will witness how they have achieved multilingual mastery through their innovative solution, combining Adobe Experience Manager Guides and machine translation technologies. Discover the impact of AI-driven approaches and the remarkable outcomes of their content transformation journey. And our journey today continues with Marco Cacciacaro, Enterprise Documentation Manager at BlackBerry in the US, who will demonstrate how to stick to your DITA standards using Schematron to add custom DITA validation to AM guides. We will learn about the value of Schematron for DITA authors and explore practical examples and the live demonstration of Schematron validation. So empower yourself with the resources needed to enhance your own DITA validation capabilities. We are also delighted to welcome the esteemed speakers from Parson AG, Frank Ralph and Lukas Jetzig, both from Germany. Their session will uncover the synergistic relationship between DITA, IIRDS, and Adobe Experience Manager in creating intelligent content that forms the information backbone of the IIoT. Gain insights into the specific requirements for the content supply chain, this time in the context of smart factories, and explore the potential of intelligent content for the future. And after that, we will have an engaging session with Ashwini Lakshminarayanan, Solution Consultants at Adobe, who will guide us on making collaborative content reviews and approvals easy. We'll understand the significance of review in the content lifecycle and witness how AM Guides streamlines the review process for high-quality content creation. So immerse yourself in the complete review management workflow and ensure that all published content undergoes thorough reviews and approval. And in our final Adobe session, Leroy Steinbacher, Senior Solutions Consultant at Adobe, will introduce you to DITA's new best friend, and that's Adobe's cloud-native PDF engine. Discover the ease and flexibility of PDF customization within AM Guides, unlock a range of customization options, and harness the power of this game-changing DITA to PDF cloud engine for your business. Say goodbye to external dependencies, external expensive solutions, and welcome new self-sufficient branding and customization era for PDFs. Throughout this remarkable day, Matt Sullivan, my esteemed co-host, and I will be your hosts on this remarkable journey. Together we will navigate the vast sea of knowledge that we will see, explore the innovative solutions presented, and embrace the transformative power of AM Guides and DITA. I extend my deepest gratitude to our distinguished speakers, industry experts, and all of you who have made Adobe DITAWorld 2023 a resounding success. Your presence, your engagement, and your contributions have elevated this event to new heights. But remember, our journey does not end here. Let the knowledge and inspiration gained during these 3 days fuel your creativity, drive your innovation in your organizations, and shape the future of your content operations. On behalf of the entire Adobe DITAWorld team, I thank you for becoming part of this remarkable event. May the connections forged, the insights gained, and the memories created during these 3 days inspire and empower you on your professional journey. And don't forget to communicate among each other, chat with each other and with the speakers, exchange your ideas, exchange your knowledge, enjoy the day, and most importantly, have fun. So thank you and enjoy the rest of Adobe DITAWorld 2023. Welcome to day 3.
Welcome to day 3 of Adobe DITAWorld. I'm Gunnar Klauberg, Senior Manager for Product Specialist at Adobe. I have had the honor of working with content professionals for the past 30 years, and I have to say that the role of content has never been more important. In the last few weeks alone, we have seen a tremendous recognition of content. For example, Adobe Firefly, now as your creative co-pilot in Photoshop, has made headlines and has already shown how it accelerates creativity. This comes at a time when we're all having conversations about generative AI as a powerful technology for content and how it should be used. I think these are exciting times for all of us. Especially the types of content here at DITAWorld are important in this regard. The content types here are in many cases factual references for your customer's business, or at least yours. This highlights, perhaps surprisingly to some, the role that content plays in business and society. The fundamental role of digitalization suddenly becomes clearer to everyone. I would like to share with you a few thoughts based on my personal experience as to why content and how to write it will become more important than ever. But first, I would like to ask you something. Think about your content and the highest possible impact of your content. I'm sure you have stated goals, but think about the best outcome you could achieve for an individual. Now, some of you are thinking in terms of subject matter experts and professionals who are engaged in intricate details of your content. Be it the joyful aha moment when an engineer understands an important detail of your product, be it the clarity and the ease of proving some facts in legal documents or certifications, or the accessibility in an unexpected but extremely important situation for your customer. But also think about people and how important your content might be to them. Are they under time constraints? Are they challenged to find proof for factual accuracy? Or are they non-experts in your field and looking for a trusted advice they can consume? Isn't this exciting? Your content, easily to find, accessible to the audience, consumable to solve the need at hand, can be invaluable. It supports the reasoning behind small and big decisions we all make, leading us all to action. So I hope you can follow my excitement and see that today, more than ever, content deserves respect. Content deserves great respect for two key reasons. The impact it has on the conversations we all engage in, on a personal, professional, and business level, and the expertise required to create accurate and referenceable content. Regarding impact, I hope the quick exercise has already helped me make that point, and maybe I'm overstating it a little bit, but given the sheer speed and the way we consume content today, I think I can say this. If content is not digital, it does not exist. And by digital, I mean digital in the best possible way. Properly tagged, linked, referenceable, and of course, semantically rich. This underlines that digitization everywhere is invaluable to us all. It has become a business imperative. And to be clear, and with all due respect, I do not think that this is a small task, and even less a responsibility that can be overestimated. The goal of digitization was and still is to break down barriers of business execution and to collaborate more closely, because we all live together in an ever more tightly connected digital ecosystem. The content and data we provide to others in this process is becoming increasingly important and is relied upon by many more stakeholders and entities than before. They need to trust us and rely on its accuracy. Then they can be motivated to act with us. This brings me to the second reason why content is highly respected today. The expertise in writing and creating it. The high level of responsibility for published content goes hand in hand with writing it. The subject matter experts are under pressure to contribute more and more. And as their audiences, demographics, preferences, and needs change, they are asked to provide different tonalities, styles, media types, and formats. It is our responsibility to provide a wider range of authors with the right professional tools and support to make this possible. These could be writing co-pilots to ensure that they can focus on the core value they provide: trust. Your audience's trust in the content, the statement, the facts, in the writer, in the partnership with your business. With more and more content available, the authority for your technical documentation is you. You are undoubtedly the first source for highly relevant documents that support certification and ensure compliance. Of course, you have already earned the most trust. Maybe you want to explore how to deepen that trust with your audience. In the future, trusted and engaging content will be invaluable to them. So I hope you share my excitement for the months and years ahead, despite big challenges we are all aware of. I'm sure that genuine conversations will help us. I can only encourage you to participate and shape the world of content as we have done before. With this, I would like to personally thank you for joining us at this year's Adobe DITAWorld. At Adobe, we are honored by all the customers and partners who share their insights and best practices at this event. We appreciate the opportunity for rich discussions that continue after this event as well. On that note, please check out Julian Murfitt's keynote on customer engagement transformation with Adobe following this. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julian Murfitt. I'm co-founder of Mekon and now a member of the executive team at Contium. Welcome to Day 3 keynote at the Adobe DITAWorld for 2023. So first thing I should perhaps do is explain where Contium and Mekon fit together. Many of you will recognize me as the face of Mekon, and we joined forces with Orbis Technology at the beginning of the year, and now we're rebranding to Contium to represent our global services in content management, content operations around the world. And we have offices in North America, Australia, India, and the UK. And our head office is in the lovely Annapolis in Maryland. So our outsourced managed services represent quite an important part of customer engagement. And we have our own technology, much of which is leveraging some of the Adobe technology. And we provide professional services and have done for many years to help implement technology and create solutions. And AM Guides is by far the leading technology for us going in the last few years and moving forward. But where do we start? Well, actually the late 80s for me and the dawn of a new decade. And desktop publishing was certainly featuring heavily in my life, working with PageMaker and seeing how the new desktop applications were changing actually a lot of companies' experience. PCs and the Mac were in the office, and that definitely created a disruptive technology, allowing companies to bring in the capability for doing page layout, much probably to the disgust of the professional designers that spend their lives doing the PageMaker. And I'm showing here a little bit of the graph of uptake. Certainly this was fairly early technology, And around the same time, there were blue chip companies like IBM, GE, and Boeing who were doing some real pioneering work around structured content and markup languages. And this was certainly only possible for those really with deep pockets. And as we moved on through into the 90s, and we started the company, my brother and I don't look a day older, I know you're going to say, and CD-ROM was starting to come out, and desktop publishing was certainly establishing itself as a powerful tool. And I was first introduced to FrameMaker and given some training by Max Hoffman. And I loved it. I thought it was a real game-changing technology. And it was the early stages of Frame Builder and FrameMaker and SGML that I believe actually now, when I look back, actually bridge the gap between this concept of page layout and desktop publishing and what we see now with true pagination driven by actually the structure of the content rather than the page and how it looks. And some of our early customers, people like Nortel, who had invested heavily in Frame Builder and were looking at how structure could help them. And this was a already established customer by the time we came on the scene, and we were providing training. So we were helping to deploy the capability. And then actually a big jump for us was an engagement with post office counters. That's where you buy your stamps or pick up your pension in the old days. And the technology that they found interesting was being able to bring in the desktop publishing so they can actually format and produce their standard operating procedures. And this actually gave us the opportunity to employ more people and provide a complete service. We're outsourcing the template design and actually the conversion. And I have to say the conversion then was cut and paste. We literally had a team cutting and pasting content from an old WordPerfect environment into FrameMaker. But come 95, and some of us were probably in sorrow over Robbie Williams leaving Take That. And actually Adobe came into my life for the first time properly when they acquired the Frame technology and Frame Builder and FrameMaker. So we then became actually an Adobe partner and therefore a reseller of this technology. And our competition, interestingly, at that time, were more of the box shifting type companies. And their interest was not the why and the how, but the how many do you want to buy? And that really wasn't going to light my fire. We were already seeing at that early stage that it was more interesting if we were engaging with the customer and understanding what it was that they wanted to actually achieve by implementing this technology. So as we moved through into the early 2000s, we were starting to see more and more complex solutions. And actually, we'd seen an interest in this standard called S1000D, which was in the aerospace sector. And we started investing heavily in that. And S1000D, we found that with FrameMaker, we could build a really good first-class extension to it to allow customers to write and manage their content in accordance with the standard. And so we're working with people like RAF Handling Squadron and including things like AP70, which was their RAF standard. And S1000D really started to take off, pardon the expression. Of course, it was used heavily in things like military jets and as it is today. Meanwhile, IBM have now launched DITA. And this is a bit early days for us, and we haven't certainly got involved in it straight away. And most of our customers at this stage are still actually seeking customized solutions, and actually quite often quite complicated. So clients like Hansard, PC, Parliamentary Council, you see the logo on the screen, EdXL, AQA. These are all clients that need to change and modify their publishing processes. And in order to do that, we were having to do deep analysis of their content architecture and developing custom DTDs, which inevitably means custom editing environments, custom templates in Frame, and also publishing output customization. So a lot of investment, high risk for both the supplier and the customer, and they take time to implement. We're also seeing quite an interesting uptake on things like database publishing. So this is really where some content, some information is already held in a structured environment. Something like even a spreadsheet, but this could be in a database. And they may well have other data that's perhaps in Word. In the case of Threadneedle, they would have fund managers that would write snippets of information in Word. And that need to be pulled into something that could be typeset and published. And still, like those early days of outsourced typesetting, it was time consuming and costing a lot. But bringing it in-house and just using traditional desktop publishing processes would be far too slow. And it was taking about 2 weeks to produce a report. And what we were able to do by using the power of FrameMaker and database publishing plugins that we developed, we're able to reduce that down to less than 5 days. So this was quite game-changing. And things like OnCourse was another project we worked on where the customer had many courses, like training courses, that were stored in a database, and we could stream this in through various frame development plugins using the APIs. So this was I would say, not always required, and certainly not a common area, because not everybody had information in data. So that's maybe we have started to look at other things, and that's the time when we started to realize that DITA maybe could be a more broad, capable standard. In fact, I found this press release, which was from 2005, when Mark Poston, one of our team, was still with us. It was starting to experiment with DITA and realized that by extending some of the power of FrameMaker, we could really make the Open Toolkit publish straight into Frame and save a lot of the effort, if you like. And in fact, I can take the quote at the bottom. He said, using our knowledge of single source publishing technology and standards such as DITA, we've helped to ensure technical publications departments can utilize a familiar and powerful application, which was FrameMaker, using DITA for their publishing projects. And so we're now starting to see a change. We're investing in technology ourselves. We're using technology that's out there to help customers. And we're starting to see DITA as being actually quite a strong standard that we can leverage, or help customers leverage, more importantly. And about that time, we started to develop a model of engagement. So we're now no longer really selling software per se, and actually more working as a consultant with the customer to help them implement technology. And to do this, we needed to really identify the need for change. So we started developing our process, which you see here, the access, assessing their needs, which we did with the content strategy audit, and then coming up with some design, and then later prototyping, and then an iterative rollout. And their focus really was on how much can we save? Maybe we can reduce the time to market. And it has to be said that translation was a big factor here. Quite typically, we were seeing savings of around 40% for implementing a structured publishing process using DITA, and then being able to send it to translators, where reuse and consistency was reducing the amount of cost and time in translation. Automatic translation was early days, and certainly even now, although that's starting to take off, the translation costs were quite extensive, and possibly globalization was feeding this need for it. And actually, in 2007, I did a keynote for DITA Europe. And I brought this slide. This is a couple of snapshots of some of the slides I gave.
And I was intrigued while I was doing the research to see what we were saying and what was the analysis. And these graphs just show some of the uptake of DITA and how they were using it. And I was quite intrigued. In the left-hand side, you can see the green column where some people were implementing DITA with no CMS. That's certainly not the case today. but I don't have much of the data. And this is now a call for action, actually. I'm going to say people like Scriptoir and Precision Content, we should work together, working with you customers to get more data on what our company's doing and how they're implementing things like DITA. And the reason for that is because customers need evidence, they need information to give them support that this is the right way to go. And I think working with Adobe and our other colleagues in the consulting industry and you customers, we can actually pull together better analysis and data that we can share and give people more confidence. And that's going to help us to move forward. But meanwhile, coming back to the journey, by this 2010, we're seeing that the technical community, or the technical committee actually for DITA, they're starting to launch the maturity model. And Ambaswote produced this as an example, which a lot of people have used and various incarnations of it. And it shows how implementation of DITA grows as you make more investment, you'll see more return. But that investment represents a deeper understanding and requires a deeper understanding of DITA and semantics and metadata. And I have to say that in the early days, a majority of the customers that we were working with were actually simply just replacing their PDF process with something a little bit more automated and looking for ROI improvements around translation from reuse. And that saving was enough for them to make the decision. But they weren't seeing the benefit of delivering dynamic content and information that we were perhaps exploring with things like Congility. And I think Congility and the content server was a little bit ahead of its time. And it's only now that we're now seeing more investment in the content that makes that more of a viable option. But in 2016, there was another game changer. David Bowie sadly was lost, and the artist formerly known as Prince. And yet Adobe introduced AM Guides, the product formerly known as XML documentation add-on for Adobe Experience Manager. And AM Guides was a big change. Instead of just the multi-channel publishing, we're going to see a big change. We have now got customers in high-tech, manufacturing and finance who are realizing that DITA is a good platform. And Adobe have introduced the ability to combine first-class DITA support with website content management in a global client. And this coming together is really where we can see the potential for omni-channel publishing and thinking about the end customer. And it's the end customer that actually has the drive here. Whereas previously we were seeing investment in this technology to help perhaps save money, save some of the process, the time to market, but really producing the same content, the same output that you were producing years before. Now we're going to start seeing a big improvement. And this map shows how the DITA uptake has grown. Again, we had this slow investment over the first few years, and I truly believe that AM Guides is going to allow us to fill that big red spot in the middle and start giving chance to customers to really explode. And I've got to say, XML is not dead, therefore, despite what Jason says. Maybe that's another talk for another day again. JSON, of course, is a good output, and we use JSON as a deliverable format, but it's not where you would write the content. If you're going to store, create, manage your content with a semantic level of richness, you need to do that in the DITA CMS using AM Guides. And then we can produce the output in other formats. And now we've got AM Guides, we've got first-class editing in a web browser, and the user experience of that is definitely something that a lot of our customers are coming back and saying, yes, this is what we've been needing. We've also got built-in PDF publishing. And then things like IDXML, which is our plugin that allows you to publish to InDesign, still means that we can get that first-class desktop publishing capability, but bring it into our structured environment. And of course, that story of DTP did change from the PageMaker into, and when InDesign came out, it's really dominated the space. And I will say as well, the cloud version of AEM Guides is a masterpiece and gives us true capability to scale up. So a little bit about Word though, because we've got built-in word conversion in AEM, and there are extensions and other options that we can look at. So I'd like to little touch on that. So Word is an unstructured format. Although it does have XML underneath, it doesn't really have the semantics that we're interested in. And it's the semantics we need to add if we're going to add it to DITA and give it some structure. So I'm thinking it's a bit like colorizing black and white pictures. And when you colorize a black and white picture, you have to work out what the colors are going to be. The black and white image, as you can see here on Marilyn, doesn't really give us much indication of what her dress color is. It could easily be green as well as black. And the blue dress that we're seeing from Dorothy, how do we know it was a blue checker? And her red shoes, well, for sure, we know from the writing that it was red, but you can't tell from any black and white image. And this is much like we see with word conversion. You're converting something that has no level of metadata or meaning, and we have to infer that by styles. And unfortunately, the use of styles are pretty poor in Word, which means that the chances of you being able to extract that content with some meaning is actually quite hard. Okay, we have some tools like XML tricks that improve this, but I'm going to see some changes over the next few years, I think, that will actually really improve this. And maybe this is where AI is going to give us some help. But first, we're going to need to deal with another issue, and that is taxonomy. Because meaning is only really brought when we have full understanding of the taxonomy. And you know, Darwin made good use of taxonomy 160 years ago, but it's taken some 20 years for the concept of taxonomy to be brought into the Darwin information architecture. So now DITA is going to be able to benefit from that. And I can see that this is things like Semantic Booster, which we introduced to pull in taxonomy into AEM, so that the AEM system can benefit from a corporate governed central taxonomy system. But then the next step is adding that knowledge graph. And if we're using tools like Pool Party, then we can add a knowledge graph to our taxonomy and then combine that with DITA, and then we'll start really seeing some power. So it's about metadata. As Barack Obama once said in one of his presentations, I think back in 2014, and he said that it's about the aboutness. And so we need the aboutness of content, and it's that that's going to give us the next step and the future, I believe. And yet we're talking about ChatGPT at this conference, and there's a number of people that are more knowledgeable than I. And I believe this big worry is the trust. We're going to be getting new information that's automatically generated, and I think it's going to lack trust. And what I'm seeing is these specialists in the knowledge management and the taxonomy are going to bring that combined with this massive search around the web, and then we'll start getting extra information about the answers. And that, I think, is where we're going to get the saving and the value and the benefit. So active metadata, as Gartner talks about, and linking DITA with the knowledge graph, then yes, I think we'll have power. And I'm thinking if we could do the same thing with conversion and have our source word content matching up with the taxonomy and the knowledge graph, then some of the algorithms can actually really start to add some value to this. So this is where the future, I believe, lies. And I was playing around with ChatGPT, as we all do at the moment, and had a little game with Turkey, and I wanted to see what it would do. So I'm asking the question of what should USA do with Turkey? And of course, I was being slightly mean, but of course it's come up with the country and saying how they might want to deal with Christmas and the relationship with the United States. And yet, actually, I was thinking about more of the dinner and what would we have for our roast turkey. So this is the future, I believe, of adding that metadata that will give it more meaning. So for us at Contium, customers are now wanting more value. They're looking for value in their content. and they're therefore looking for us to provide value in implementing things like DITA. POCs, proof of concepts, are commonplace. We can spin up a proof of concept using AEM guides very quickly, and that allows us to not just test that it's possible, but see how the user experience will be for the users and the writers of content, and then also test some of the output to see what the user experience will be for the end customer, and showing how that can connect up with AEM sites and other JSON outputs and other methods. And we're also seeing still clients are wanting to outsource managed services. So I'm sure we will still see that. And our content operations managed service team have many authors around the world, in fact. And that complements those clients that want to invest in the technology themselves, but also need some extra help. So I think we're going to see, from our point of view, both managed services, technology, and this professional services to help you implement. So let me just move to something slightly different. And I wanted to share with you an experience that I had as a customer recently. And it started with me wanting to buy some shelving from a company called Tilco. So let me just see if I can put this on live. And it should give you a bit of a feel for the experience. And the reason I brought this is because I think it really encapsulated what I'm going to expect as a customer in the future. So here's my shelving unit that I was designing. And of course, it's a nice interactive interface, as I think more sites are giving you. And so we can change the size, the density, the width of the shelves, the height. I can make it a slightly smaller shelf unit. And it's giving me the option to see it with books and what have you, but I can also turn those off. So hide the item. So yes, it's got a nice interface. But the clincher for me is, what do you do when you buy it? Well, for me, as we bought the product, they delivered it on a whole bunch of boxes. It was a flat pack product, but with a difference. I got my wife got her own personal manual that showed exactly how to build it. And it needed it because this is a complex piece of kit. And you can see from the top right-hand corner of the screen here, we've got V21, 22, 23, 24. So there was a lot of parts. Each part was labeled and numbered, and they all went in a specific place for my design of shelf. And it's the first time I've personally experienced a personalized manual with our name on it. And even the code at the bottom, we've got this QR code, which is personalized to us, so we can share it with our friends so they can get a discount if they want to buy something similar. And so this whole thing was delivered in PDF and on print. I have to say I wanted the print one because I'm on my knees putting this together, and actually the PDF one was probably not so necessary, and they sent it to me by email when I was researching information about how they do this. And it's all done as an automated process, and they're producing thousands of these, so it's really slick. So how does that relate to us? Well, we're working with a client at the moment that make machines that make chips. And those machines are about 5 million, not £5,000. And so I'm not going to experience the manual. But what they're wanting and what we're helping them with is how to, using a sales configurator, pull in the right components that make up these complex systems with multiple gases and different pieces that make up the jigsaw of the chip manufacturing machine, so that it can then produce the right imagery and graphics and then drive certain content from the DITA content. So we're doing some proof of concept with them at the moment. And I think this is really a good illustration of how that might change. So this is just a little taster of what I think is happening. There's been a long journey. It's in many ways things have changed a lot, and in many ways actually things have not changed. Our customers are still needing value. They're still needing help. And now we can take advantage of maybe some of the real mature DITA capability. So if you need some help with your AIM implementation, do reach out to me. Otherwise, I really hope you enjoy the rest of the event and see some of the other great technology that Adobe are producing. And I will continue to work with my customers and Adobe to do this for the next few years. Thank you very much for your time.
This is Engineering Global Connections, leveraging Adobe Experience Manager Guides for Multilingual Mastery. I'm Ron Egle, a longtime DITAWORLD attendee and first-time presenter. Let me start by telling you about the company I work for, Ariel Corporation. Ariel Corporation has nothing to do with mermaids or laundry detergent made in Europe. Ariel is the largest manufacturer of separable reciprocating gas compressors worldwide. Ariel is a quintessential American entrepreneurial company. It started in our founder's basement in 1966. Over 5 decades later, the third generation leads the family-owned business, which employs over 1,500 workers in multiple facilities across Ohio, with compressors in over 100 countries worldwide. Here's a short overview to give you an idea of Ariel's role in the global energy industry.
Ariel Corporation, located in Mount Vernon, Ohio, is the world's largest manufacturer of natural gas compressors. For more than 50 years, Ariel's traditions of quality, integrity, and American-made workmanship have produced compressors that have become the world standard. Because of the success and reliability of our compressors, Ariel's products are integral in supporting the infrastructure of the entire American energy industry. Proudly engineered and manufactured in the USA, Ariel compressors are essential in the transportation of natural gas used for power generation, arguably the cleanest source of electricity made available to the global market. Additionally, among many other applications, you can find Ariel compressors fueling the transportation industry of the future with cleaner, cheaper gasoline alternatives. To view our compressors and discover more about why we're so committed to clean, abundant, and affordable natural gas, visit www.arielcorp.com.
To meet the global service demands featured in the video, Ariel provides translation from English into Spanish, Chinese, and Russian. I manage the translation of our website, support portals, technical documentation, videos, and online learning courses. We use Adobe Experience Manager Guides as our component content management system and make use of the XTM connector to automatically integrate our content into XTM, our translation management system, and Systran, our neural machine translation engine. This phenomenal setup is completely automated and allows me to spend minimal time managing our translation operations. In this session, I'll share insights on our journey to develop Ariel's current translation methods and strategies. Let's start by going back to 2018. At this point, our technical documentation was written in Madcap Flare and published to our Ectron CMS. Our translation was handled using Madcap lingo and sending XLIF, terminology, and TMS files back and forth to various translation vendors. This simple description already has seasoned translation personnel shaking their heads. It was prone to problems. Here's how it worked. All the content elements used to create technical content were exported from Flare into Lingo. Lingo created individual XLIF files and packaged them to send to our translation vendors. The translation vendor then translated the content elements and sent us back the XLIF files. The XLIF files were processed through Lingo and individual Flare projects were created with the translated content for each language. We would then generate PDFs for our regional offices to review the content in context. We had conducted reviews via the translation companies sending Word files or utilizing online review portals, but neither of these methods provided in-context reviews. The regional offices would then return the PDFs with their edits and comments, which were manually placed into the Flare document masters and updated in the Lingo TM. HTML and PDF files were generated from Flare, loaded into our Electron CMS, and synchronized with the English content for display on the website. As you can see, we're nowhere close to having the ideal translation process. It was labor-intensive to move files back and forth from our translation vendors, and even more labor-intensive to incorporate the edits into our master documents. We had all kinds of TM quality problems not having a translation management system. Our regional teams were upset with the inconsistency of our translation vendors and the effort it took to review the documents. We lacked the ability to enforce linguistic quality control methods. And translation was expensive. We weren't translating our materials fast enough to meet our support department's expectations. At this time, our IT department had assembled a task force that recommended to company executives the purchase of Adobe Experience Manager Guides and sites to replace our Electron CMS. This recommendation was the result of a year-long effort that conducted an extensive evaluation of the 5 industry-leading CMS and CCMS platforms. We replaced Flare with Adobe Experience Manager Guides, providing Ariel with technical authoring software and a component content management system. It has enabled Ariel to easily create, manage, and deliver technical communications critical to the function, operation, and maintenance aspects of Ariel's highly engineered products. With Adobe Experience Manager Guides and Sites as our chosen enterprise content management system, we evaluated various compatible translation management systems. XTM stood out from the pack, offering in-context reviews, advanced TM features, project management tools, automated workflows, and the ability to provide a single source TMS portal from which our translation vendors could all work on the same centralized platform. The XTM connector to Adobe Experience Manager Guides offered the ability to automate our translation process completely and eliminate all the file handling tasks. 2019 was spent finding partners to implement our enterprise content management system. This transition period allowed us to set up XTM and begin translating in our TMS. We started loading our Flare masters directly into XTM projects and immediately saw improvement in our translation and review processes. We had some resistance from existing translation vendors about working within our TMS portal. This prompted us to conduct a vendor evaluation and concluded by choosing Argos Multilingual as our translation partner and staying with a long-time freelance Spanish linguist. Argos provides us with outstanding linguists and technical help managing our XTM portal. We have a true partnership with Argos in which they supply Ariel with translation technology expertise that other translation vendors might find detrimental to their business. You'll see what I mean as I get into the use of AI in our translation processes. As we conducted content audits and examined website analytics in preparation for loading our content into Adobe Experience Manager Guides, we determined that we'd like to use machine translation for some of our 3rd and 4th level content items. We worked with our regional offices and conducted tests to determine which MT platform would work best with our technical content. We selected Sistran, which was easily integrated into our translation processes in XTM. Sistran assisted us in setting up and training the MT engine using the TM and terminology from the TMS. Our last preparation item for our Adobe Experience Manager transformation was to export all of our maintenance and repair manual content pages from our Ectron CMS and align them with each language page. To address the process of alignment, we had an AI solution built into our TMS. This process is not always as straightforward as it may appear. There could be many differences, such as transcreation segments, where single sentences in English need to be translated into 2 or 3 sentences in the target language, or vice versa. The Aligner tool in XTM detects these anomalies without any user intervention. The XTM Aligner created a skeleton overlay of the text and assessed the degree of change between the source and the target versions of the documents. It then used the overlay to align each segment automatically. We had some required manual alignment, which was handled by Argos linguists and our regional teams. This was all done with minimal effort thanks to the Aligner tool. To ensure that older TM segments imported from Lingo were accurate, we needed a cost-effective method to conduct an audit and clean up the TM before loading new content. Our concerns were that manual human review of all the translation segments would just be too costly. Our TMs contained multiple and different translations for exactly the same source segment. There were inconsistencies between the corporate terminology and the terms used in the TMs, and we had misaligned segments in the TMs, source segments complete but targets split in half, or vice versa. We turned to Argos, our translation service provider, to deliver an effective method to clean up these old segments. Argos was able to support us with Argos AI TM Cleanup. The Argos AI TM Cleanup uses semantic analysis and compares the meaning of the source and target segments. It then assigns a number that illustrates how close the model thinks the source text varies from the target text meaning. The significance of the numbers can be broken down the following way. 0.0, source and target are the same. 0.1 to 0.4, source and target are close, so it's likely to be a correct translation. 0.4 and above, the difference between the source target is large, so segments should be reviewed. The larger the number, the more likely the transition is to be faulty. Argos linguists then worked with our regional review teams to resolve the issues greater than 0.4. Using the Argos AI TM cleanup took a fraction of the time for a human to do the same. Here are the results Ariel experienced using this method. It improved our linguistic quality within our projects, gaining higher TM matches. We removed poorly translated segments that misled our linguists and our MT engine. It reduced translation costs since context matches and 100% matches no longer needed to be reviewed. And it increased the quality and efficiency when creating the translation models for our MT engine. The XTM Aligner and the Argos AI TM Cleanup were 2 AI solutions that yield behind-the-scenes cost savings that get overlooked when dealing with the day-to-day translation costs. Now that you have an understanding of how and why Ariel put together the pieces and resources of its translation operations, let's look deeper into the tools and mechanisms, when put together, create the key aspects for delivering higher quality translations. For Ariel, it starts with Adobe Experience Manager Guides. AEM Guides offers the mechanisms to create projects and files for multilingual content and keeps them synchronized and organized within the CCMS. The XTM connector interfaces the TMS with the translation framework within AEM Guides. The XTM connectors are configured within AEM Guides and connect the source files in a translation project to the project templates within the TMS. The TMS templates are made up of instruction elements that guide the translation files through the TMS workflow and processes. These elements include which TM and terminology should be used, instructions for processing DITA files. Well, how will matching TM segments be processed for the editor? Will machine translation be used within the project? What workflow will be used? Who's assigned to each step in the workflow? As you can see, the project template controls the translation process throughout the workflow. It places the translated files back into AEM Guides in the proper location for publishing. Your workflow can be configured to your translation needs. We have a number of templates based on the content type and translation workflow. We have workflows that are 100% machine translation and others that include linguists and QA personnel. The next item in our translation process is the TM. The new content needing translation from AEM Guides is broken down into segments, a phrase, a sentence, or a paragraph. The TM is searched for matching segments and loads the matching segments into the editor based on strength of the match. In these segments, tags are placed in areas of the segments that contain styling or elements of code like hyperlinks. The TM first uses AI to retrieve matches from the TM efficiently using a unique algorithm that calculates fuzzy matches by taking into account and recognizing the syntax of the segments in the localization projects, enabling the algorithm to spot matches that normally wouldn't be recognized, such as sentences that differ by the word order, like "for more information, check our website," and "check our website for more information." Without the use of AI, linguists would have to translate the segment from scratch, although the sentence and their meanings are practically the same. AI is used once again in the step for automatic placement of inline tags. For consistency, everything that's included in the source file also needs to be included in the target file, which are why these tags are required. The challenge comes from the fact that the placement of these tags within the source will likely differ in the target. AI is used to automatically recognize and place these tags in the right place in the target file. We found in almost all instances that the auto inline placement did not require any corrections. This has turned out to be a huge time saver, especially compared to how much time had been spent editing these tags in Flare when using Lingo. Once segments are processed through the TM, the remaining segments are sent to Systran for machine translation, which is displayed as matches in the XTM editor. Our linguists then perform post-editing. As I evaluated the execution of this step, I asked Systran if it was possible to send edits made in post-editing back to Systran via the API to self-teach the MT engine. I was told they are working on a similar idea and would have something soon. In April of 2021, XTM released version 12.7 with XTM AI Enhanced TM powered with Systran NFA, and it offered an AI method in which XTM uses Systran to analyze the segment and complete the translation without human intervention. Here's how it works. The AI Enhanced TM sends fuzzy matches to the neural machine translation as reference material. Systran NFA uses the fuzzy match, including the right terms, and completes the sentence using the neural machine translation engine. Neural machine translation uses an artificial neural network to predict the likelihood of a sequence of words, typically modeling entire sentences in a single integrated model. The Systran neural fuzzy adaptation uses the TM information from both the source and target size of the fuzzy matches. It creates a dynamic adaptation from the context and information found in the fuzzy match to be trained on the fly and creates an influence model producing the highest probable translation. This AI process is so powerful because the TM and MT work hand in hand to create the best translation. The quality of the MT gets optimized in real time to save post-editing efforts. Having our TMs validated using the Argos AI TM cleanup was a key to increasing the efficiency of this process. Validated translations from the translation memories help the neural machine translation engine to reduce the translation effort and to increase the consistency over time. Harnessing this powerful AI feature has reduced our post-editing efforts. It has increased the productivity when using MT workflows. It improved our machine translation output. Measurements earlier this year have shown a plus 26 blue point increase. And it reduced our linguists' translation efforts by 31% and improved the quality of our MT translation by 100%. The AI Enhanced TM feature currently works with up to 84% fuzzy matches. In late June, XTM is raising this threshold to 85 to 99% fuzzy matches, which will potentially increase our MT translation by 129%. XTM has hinted that the technology used to achieve AI Enhanced TM may soon be incorporated to achieve cutting-edge integration with OpenAI's GPT technology. If this comes to fruition, we could further enhance our neural machine translation accuracy and usage sourcing large language models as this AI technology evolves. This pretty much concludes the use of AI in our current translation processes. I'd like to finish this walkthrough of our basic workflow by touching on the elements of our TMS that have significantly improved our translation operations. In the post-editing process, I'll start with the terminology tool. If you remember earlier in my presentation, I mentioned that we had a terminology list that was sent to our translation vendors. Well, XTM has a tool for that, a term base. The misuse of our terminology in the old translation method was a pain point for our regional offices. I constantly got complaints about how the translation vendors were not using our terminology list. XTM has the term base feeding into the editor. Defined terms are highlighted in blue for each segment, and the proper translation of the term can be inserted into the target segment with a click of the mouse. My bad, XTM has one more AI feature, and it's related to the term base, the term extractor. Whenever a new localization project is created, the TMS analyzes all the content and finds high-quality terms to add to the term base. The term extractor automatically does all the work when a term gets created through its analysis. Its translation is also included. Our linguists perform a quick review and confirms with our regional offices before any new terms are added. There's a lot of industry lingo used in our content, and its usage demands this extra effort on our part. We have found a lot of time savings by removing the manual tasks associated with finding new terms, translating them, and loading them into the term base. My last item to discuss is the ability of our TMS to do in-context reviews using a visual editor. There's no AI behind this feature, but it's important in getting accurate translations from both linguists and reviewers. The editor interface used for both editors and reviewers contains a visual editor. The visual editor can be kept together on one screen with the segment editor or separated on a second screen. Text editing can then be done in either editor and is instantly displayed in both. DITA projects can also use this feature, but we've encountered graphic display problems. The current connector cannot properly access the images from Adobe Experience Manager Guides. XTM is working on a new connector using API calls, and we look forward to fully enabling this feature in future DITA projects. XTM also includes a video title editor that allows you to edit subtitles on videos played with YouTube. Once editing and review are completed, a final QA check is performed. As you've seen through the walkthrough of our translation process, we have the tools and methods to accomplish quality at source. As with any process, errors occur, and that's why we rely on the QA specialists to run QA checks on grammar, style, and spelling, and to correct any LQA problems detected. With the project files checked and approved, the final step is sending them back to Adobe Experience Manager Guides to be loaded and published on the proper language site. The XTM connector automatically handles all the file handoffs, placing them in the correct location. I'll end this session with a statement made at the beginning. We use Adobe Experience Manager Guides as our component content management system, and we make use of XTM connector to automatically integrate our content into XTM, our translation management system, and Systran, our neural machine translation engine. This phenomenal setup is completely automated and allows me to spend minimal time managing our translation operations. I hope I've given some insights on how you can transform your translation operations to run efficiently and effectively using the latest AI tools in all aspects of your translation processes. Thank you for watching, and I'll turn it over to Stefan and Matt.
Hello everyone, and welcome to my session, Stick to Your DITA Standards, using Schematron to add custom DITA validation to AEM guides.
Since day one, we've been determined to change the world. Our devices placed the office in the palm of your hand and changed how we work, forever. Our vision has expanded. Now we're pairing artificial intelligence with our trusted security and putting it everywhere. For too long, security was about what you stopped, but the Internet of Things is making everything smarter, including cyber threats. We've never been more connected or more vulnerable. As ransomware and cybercrime explode, security needs to do more. It needs to stay ahead of threats. It needs to keep you safe. It needs to be intelligent. Prevention is the best medicine. This is especially true for IT systems. Much like vaccines prevent infection, our intelligent security is a prevention-first approach that stops cyber attacks before they can launch. If there is a breach, we have remediation solutions and services ready and in place. We help our customers solve their most critical security challenges. We protect more than 500 million endpoints, including over 195 million cars. We have design wins with 23 of the top 25 electric vehicle OEMs, ensuring vehicle safety and security. 45 of Fortune 100 companies trust us with their security. Our security is NIAP certified as classified. It is the highest security level awarded for government and industry. While cybersecurity lets you stop threats, intelligent security gives you the freedom to reach higher, go further, and dream bigger. BlackBerry Intelligent Security lets you change the world again.
Guides. My name is Marco Cacciacaro, and I am the manager of the Enterprise Documentation team at BlackBerry, based in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. To answer the two questions that you probably have right off the bat, yes, this is the same BlackBerry that produced phones years ago, and no, we are no longer in the business of phones. BlackBerry has transformed itself over the years into a leader in the enterprise software space, specializing in mobility management products, cybersecurity, and IoT. And we have a host of other security and business productivity offerings in our wide portfolio. My team produces the customer documentation for all of the enterprise software products that BlackBerry offers. If you're curious, you can check it all out on docs.blackberry.com. Our team has a long history with DITA, starting back when I was a student writer over 16 years ago. My first project in the wonderful wide world of tech writing involved helping BlackBerry sort out the transition from unstructured authoring in FrameMaker to structured authoring in a DITA CCMS. BlackBerry has been a proud leader in the DITA space, carrying it over the years through 3 different component content management systems. First Contenta, then Ixiasoft, and now AEM Guides. We made the transition to Guides about 5 years ago, and we've never looked back. Over the years, our team has developed our own unique standards and practices for DITA authoring, with goals of promoting minimalism, achieving consistency, and streamlining our use of elements to produce clean documentation that is easy to use and easy to navigate. A few examples of some standards that we enforce in our use of DITA. We stick to the use of the standard table element rather than the choice table or simple table elements, as we've put the most effort into the visual formatting and presentation of standard tables. When everyone uses the same table element, tables look consistent across our content. We limit the use of note elements within topics to ensure that they have maximum impact and draw the attention of the reader. When notes are overused, they lose a lot of their impact. General guidance is to limit the use of notes to 1 per topic. We also don't hard code height and width values on image elements, as this can result in images getting distorted in output. Instead, we ensure that the proper sizing is set on the source image in Photoshop or Illustrator before we import it into Guides. These are just a few examples of many practical standards that we've developed for our use of DITA. None of them involve strict syntax problems or violations of base DITA standards. They are simply conscious decisions that we've made to maximize the impact, presentation, and clarity of our content. A key challenge that we faced over the years. What is the best way to teach and enforce our DITA standards and practices to our writers? We pass content through reviews with a dedicated technical editor, we provide extensive training, and we document and maintain authoring guidelines that our writers can refer to at any time. All of these methods work to a degree, but mistakes or oversights can always slip through the cracks. Failure to follow our DITA standards and practices is not strictly wrong as far as DITA goes, so the built-in XML validation in the Guides web editor can't really do anything about it. The impact of not following our standards can be as minor as missing alt text on an image, or as major as a failed PDF or HTML output due to a few misconfigured XREF elements. We've always wrestled with the question of how we could build in some form of automated checking to help our writers learn and follow our standards. The release of AEM Guides 4.1 last year introduced a new feature that finally gave us the answer to this long-standing question. Guides introduced support for the Schematron XML validation standard, giving us the ability to integrate custom validation rules with the AEM Guides topic editor. My presentation today will focus on what Schematron is and why it is valuable to DITA authors. I'll give a demo of Schematron validation in action. I'll cover the basics of writing Schematron rules. I'll share examples of rules that we have implemented. And finally, I'll share some resources that you can use to get started building your own Schematron config. So what is Schematron? It's an XML validation language that uses XPath expressions to construct and apply custom XML validation rules. You can use it with any type of XML, but of course the focus today will be on its applications for DITA authoring. Invented by Rick Jelliff in the late 90s into early 2000s, Schematron is a popular XML validation standard with applications across many industries. According to schematron.com, it is a language for making assertions about the presence or absence of, patterns in linked XML documents. Now, to put that in very simple terms, Schematron just allows you to run an automated process on a given sample of XML content to determine whether it follows the rules that you define. You can use Schematron to build a collection of specific validation rules. Each rule can be used to do the following for a given DITA topic. Locate all instances of a specific DITA element. Set out a rule for the contents of that element. Determine whether the rule is followed or broken. If the rule is followed, the element is valid. If the rule is broken, the element is not valid, and you can display a custom error message to the user to guide them to correct the issue. Now, to give a quick disclaimer, I'm no expert in Schematron. I'm just a tech writer who is curious about new features that we can exploit and use to our benefit in AEM Guides. Last year, I attended a demo session for a pending upgrade of Guides and learned that they added support for Schematron. I saw the potential that it had to automate the enforcement of our standards, so I asked Adobe for some guidance about how I could learn about and use it. The Guides team gave me a sample Schematron configuration and pointed me to some very helpful demos and resources from Eric Siegel, a prominent Schematron expert. After spending some time with those resources, I was able to use what I learned to translate a wish list of DITA standards to specific Schematron rules that my team was able to test, validate, and eventually implement in our daily authoring. Hopefully what I'll cover today will serve as a jumpstart to help you on your own journey to integrate Schematron with AEM Guides. To get started, I thought it would be helpful to provide a demo of the actual experience of Schematron DITA validation within the Guides topic editor. So we'll jump over here to our actual instance of AEM Guides version 4.1. And what I've done here for the sake of this demo is just set up a very simple sample concept topic. So we'll open it up here in the editor. It's just got some very basic lorem ipsum sample text, and what I'm going to do right now is to intentionally introduce some errors that violate the Schematron validation rules that we've configured. So I'm going to delete the contents of this paragraph tag to set up the dreaded MTP tag for spacing, one of my personal pet peeves. In this unordered list here, it's got two list item elements. I'm going to delete one of them so that we have an unordered list with only a single list item. I'm going to duplicate this note here so that the same parent element of con body now has two note elements within it. Call that note number 2. Here we have an internal link to another topic. I'm going to mess it up by basically changing the scope of it from local to external. And for this web link, our requirements are that the format is set to HTML and the scope is set to external. I'm going to mess it up by removing the format equals HTML attribute. So I've now introduced some violations of our DITA standards into the topic. And before I run the schematron validation by clicking save, I'll quickly show you how the schematron config has been added to the system. So I am a CMS admin for the system. So within the editor settings here, we have a validation tab. So this is our schematron configuration file, which we'll discuss quite a bit within this presentation. All you need to know right now is that it contains all of our validation rules using the specific syntax that schematron requires. I've uploaded it as an administrator, and I've set it to run the validation check whenever any user clicks save or save as new version. That's what that checkbox here means. Run validation check before saving the file. So that's how we have configured the schematron validation to run. I'll go over both options that you have for running the validation a little bit later on. But for now, just know that in our system, it's configured to run whenever a user clicks save. So we'll do that right now. I've introduced those intentional violations here. I'm going to click the save, and it's going to instantly run the schematron validation process. It's going to throw up this message that tells me that the file is not saved because various rules have been broken. In my validation panel to the right here, we have an error for every issue that has now occurred, plus the specific error message that I have put in the configuration file to inform the user of what the problem is. So whenever you click the error, it gets highlighted. This one, the error and the issue is actually with the con body parent element that has multiple notes, which is why the whole thing is highlighted there. The external link here is highlighted, and so on and so forth. So let's go about fixing these problems so that I can save this topic. So it tells me the bulleted list must have more than one item. So I'll correct that issue by adding in list item number 2. I'll eliminate the empty paragraph tag to get rid of that problem. I'll eliminate note number 2 to eliminate that problem of more than one note being present within the parent element. So now I'll just rerun the validation to show you that these 5 errors will now go down to 2. Okay, so the problem I still have here is with my links. So again, it's going to give me guidance here. In order to fix this web link, I need to go into the properties and I need to set the format back to HTML. And for this internal link to another topic, I need to change the scope from external to local. Now, when I run the save again, my validation is passed and my topic has now been saved. And the same validation check will happen when I save as new version as well. It'll do another validation check for me. So now that I've demonstrated the end goal of what can be accomplished, let me dive into the essentials of how you can use schematron and XPath expressions to build your custom DITA validation rules. So something that I learned very quickly is that your schematron implementation can be as simple or as complex as you need or want it to be. There are many online resources that you can use to learn the ins and outs of schematron and XPath expressions, and I'll share a list of some before we conclude today. Thankfully, it's not that hard to grasp the essentials and translate that understanding to actual schematron syntax. Before I jump into the specifics, I'll clarify that Guides gives you 2 options when it comes to running the XML validation. The soft or optional method, where writers can upload the config and run it whenever they want to, or the hard or mandatory method, where you upload the config as an administrator and have it run whenever a writer clicks save or save as new version. When you use this method, the writer has to correct any errors before they can save the topic. We opted for the mandatory method because we consider the schematron rules that we've configured to be reasonable standards that all of our writers should be following. What I'll walk you through now is the basic anatomy of a schematron config to give you a better understanding of how you can move from the concept of a rule to the actual implementation of that rule. To implement schematron rules, you need a schematron configuration file, which is basically just a text file with the .sch extension. This file has standard info at the start and end that defines the version of XSLT to use, the title of your configuration. The example here is just Enterprise Docs Schematron Config. It's just a friendly title. And a parent schema wrapper that will contain everything that you define in the file. So this little dots here represents everything that the real contents of the schematron configuration that has my patterns and rules, which I'll explain in a moment. But really, your config file setup just requires this whole parent wrapper that defines this overall metadata for your configuration file. The real meat and potatoes of the config file are the patterns and rules that guide the automated validation process in your DITA topics. Every pattern translates to a specific standard that you want the schematron validation to look for and enforce. A pattern is a collection of one or more rules. To start with a simple example, the following is a pattern that will flag any unordered list or ordered list that does not have at least 2 list items. So the important thing to note right now is that there is a pattern opening tag and closing tag that will contain all of your rules. And we'll dive into every aspect of a pattern in the following slides now. The first thing that you do within the pattern is define the context, which is the element that you want the automated validation to check. Continuing with this example, you want to validate unordered list and ordered list elements, so those elements become your context. So we have the rule context here being pointed at unordered list for the first rule and ordered list for the second rule. Next, we set out the specific rules that we want to use for the validation. You define each rule, and the validation process will determine whether the rule is observed or broken. There are 2 types of rules in Schematron: assert tests and report tests. Report tests are not currently supported by guides, so we'll narrow our focus to assert tests. Assert tests are used to set out a rule that the target XML syntax must follow. Rule construction is based on XPath 1.0 expressions, offering many options to build your rules. Staying with our list example, the assert tests here take account of list item elements and set out a requirement that more than one must be present within the unordered list or ordered list parent. Lastly, the text that is contained within the assert test determines the error message that is displayed to the writer if the rule is not satisfied. You write the error message string yourself, which is very useful for reminding writers about the standards that they need to follow. In this case here, if the count list item greater than 1 rule is broken for unordered list or ordered list, the text, a bulleted list or a numbered list, must have more than 1 item is displayed to the user, giving them guidance on how to resolve the problem. So that covers the basic construction of a schematron pattern that defines a standard that you want to enforce for your DITA authors. Before I show you some real-world examples of patterns that my team has implemented, I'll cover some of the common options that you have when building XPath 1.0 expressions. This is a very small sample of what's available to you, basically the options that I found us revisiting a few times as we figured out how to build our patterns and assert tests. So first off, commenting. As with any markup language, you can comment out certain pieces of text or syntax in your configuration file. You can use this to add descriptions or explanations, or to turn off certain patterns that you're currently evaluating or revising. So in the example I've provided here, I use commenting to name all of the patterns that I have within our configuration file just to help me orient myself. And I also have descriptions that I've given to each pattern so that I understand right off the bat, okay, this is my rule for unordered lists, this is my rule for notes, and so on and so forth. If you want your rules to check the attributes of elements, you can use the @ sign to signal which attributes you want to factor into your rules. For example, in this case, we have a rule with the context set to the xref element, which we use for internal and external links. The assert test sets out the rule that every xref element must include a scope attribute, and the error message indicates what the scope attribute must be set to for different types of links. So For every XREF element within a topic, the requirement is that the scope attribute must be present. If the scope attribute is not present and the rule that I've set out is broken, that error message is displayed to the user, telling them what the scope must be set to and what the how it must be set for web links and for local links. You can use wildcard characters to signify that you want the rule to apply to any DITA element. In this example, we've created a rule where no DITA element should contain more than one note element to preserve the impact of notes when we choose to use them. Now, this is a universal rule that we want to apply to any parent DITA element. That's why we set the rule context to the wildcard, because we want this rule to apply to all DITA elements across the board. I've shown the count expression a few times already, which can be very helpful when you want to put in place some standards around how specific elements should be used. For example, if you want to make sure that unordered or ordered lists are truly lists that contain more than one item, or to ensure that a given parent element contains a maximum of a single note element. Count expressions are also good examples to show how you can use operators such as greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and so on to define your rules. You can also use other operators like does not equal when you want to build rules that prohibit certain values for attributes. For example, this rule flags image elements that have a blank value for the alt text attribute. So again, the rule context is pointing at images. So whenever there's an image, the rule states that the alt attribute must not be blank. If it is blank, then it displays this error message to the user, telling them to add alt text. You can leverage not expressions when you want to set out rules for the elements or attributes that you do not want writers to use in specific contexts. For example, we created this rule to prevent the use of table elements within the prerequisite element. So for prerequisites, if there is a table element present, the rule is broken and the user gets the message that prereq elements should not contain tables. You can also use or statements when building your rules to address more than one element or attribute within the same rule. For example, this rule defines that users should not apply conditional attributes to command elements within a task, but should instead apply the attribute to the step element. The not statement in the assert test uses or to address all of the attribute types that we leverage in our DITA content. So you can see here, not attribute audience or attribute other props or attribute platform or attribute product. So that was just a small sample of the many options you have when building schematron rules. There are various XPath resources available online, some of which I'll share later on, that you can leverage to understand the full scope of options you have for building DITA validation rules. Now, to pull all of this together, I'll show you some of the real-world rules that we have active in guides today and explain our logic for why we have these rules in place. First, we can return to an example that I mentioned previously. When we use images in our DITA content, we instruct writers to avoid hard-coding height and width values for the image in the syntax, as this can easily result in images getting distorted in the output. We want writers to follow templates and sizing standards for images using Photoshop or Illustrator, such that images are already properly sized when we import the PNG files into AEM. To enforce this rule, we created the following pattern. The context specifies that the rules apply to any image element in a topic. Both assert tests use not statements along with the height and width attributes respectively to set out a rule that neither attribute should be present in the image element. If either attribute is present, the user is shown an error message that instructs them to remove the attribute and ensure that the proper sizing is enforced in the image itself. The next set of rules focus on the proper configuration of internal links within the same DITA map and external links to websites. In all my years as a CMS admin, the misconfiguration of XREF elements is probably the most common cause of output errors and broken or non-functional links in PDF and HTML output. The ability to create patterns to catch and correct these issues at the source is a huge win in my books. This is the pattern that we built to ensure the proper configuration of web links. The context specifies that the rule applies to any XREF element with an href attribute that contains a value with HTTP or HTTPS. So in other words, a URL. The assert test defines two rules. The scope attribute must be present and must have a value of external, and the format attribute must be present and must be set to a value of HTML. If either condition is not met, the user is shown an error message that instructs them to set these attributes properly. Likewise, we've implemented a similar rule for the proper configuration of internal links between topics that exist in the same DITA map. The context specifies that the rule applies to any XREF element where the href attribute does not start with HTTP or HTTPS. So in other words, a link to another topic in the CCMS, not a URL. The assert test defines two conditions. The scope attribute must be present and must have a value of local, and the format attribute must not be present. It's only required for web links. If either condition is not met, the user is shown an error message that instructs them to set these attributes properly. The last example focuses on ensuring that our writers use the proper DITA elements. DITA offers a wide selection of possible elements that can be used, but over the years we've curated a specific list of elements that we want writers to utilize, and we've developed our output formats to style these elements in specific ways. To achieve consistency in the look and feel of our docs, we want writers to stick to the approved list of DITA elements. To this end, we created the following pattern to flag DITA elements that we don't want writers to use. Now, for the sake of limited space on this slide here, this is a very truncated list where we only list the first 4 disallowed elements. The true list in our configuration file is much longer. The context uses a wildcard value, meaning that it will check every element in a topic. The assert test defines one rule that names multiple elements. In other words, it's an expression to indicate that none of the following elements should be used within the topic. If the rule is broken and any of the named DITA elements are used, the user is shown an error message that indicates that that specific element is not supported. I thought it would also be helpful to give you a quick overview of our implementation process. The first step involved compiling a wish list of the standards that we wanted the schematron validation to enforce. We spent about 2 weeks compiling the list and refining it to a final version that we felt was achievable. The key here was to identify rules that we felt could realistically be translated to an XPath expression, could be comfortably enforced on a large scale across all of our DITA content, and would not feel too heavy-handed for writers. Once we had our list, the next step was to actually learn how to write them in schematron syntax. Adobe gave me a basic sample and pointed me to recorded demo sessions by Eric Siegel. His sessions were very useful because they included many exercises that built my knowledge gradually. After working on that for 2 or 3 weeks or so, I felt I had a good grasp of the essentials and was able to figure out how to translate our wish list items into functional XPath expressions. I was able to test my rules using a command line schematron validation tool, using sample DITA topics that I set up with intentional errors in the syntax. The guides team was also very helpful, answering my questions and pointing me in the right direction when I wasn't able to figure out the syntax on my own. Also, a big thank you as well to Pulkit Nagpal on the guides team. He always responded promptly and gave me excellent guidance when I needed it. The next stage was to test the schematron configuration within AEM guides and refine the rules accordingly. I was very fortunate to have a super keen student writer, his name was Raj, who really put the schematron configuration through its paces, testing it with over 40 sample topics copied from our real-world content. He identified which rules worked exactly as intended, which ones we had to tweak or adjust because of use cases that we had not anticipated, and which rules we actually decided to pull back because we found them to be too restrictive or problematic. He also took a real interest in learning more about XPath and gained enough knowledge to improve how I had initially written a lot of our assert tests. All in all, we spent about 3 weeks testing the schematron config. Once we had reached a point in our testing where we were happy with the results and it was working as we expected and wanted, we formally rolled the schematron validation out to our users. I led a session for our writers, walked them through all the rules, showed the feature in action, and then a few days later enabled it for everyone in our production environment. For about 2 to 3 weeks following the official rollout, we identified a few more edge cases and tweaks that we needed to make and updated the config accordingly. At the time of this recording, we've had our schematron config live for writers for about 2 months, and it's working out great. In my own experience and based on feedback from teammates, it has had a significant impact on the quality of our DITA content, helping us identify and fix errors as a natural part of the authoring process. So as promised, here are a few helpful resources that I ended up using to learn more about schematron and kind of learn how to translate my ideas to actual syntax. Of course, you don't have to write this all down now. You can watch the recording later on. But I would definitely recommend taking a look at Eric Siegel's Schematron tutorials. He's also authored books about schematron. So there's a ton of content out there for you to dive into. At that first URL right there, there's intro and prep materials for his sessions. If you search for Eric Siegel Schematron tutorial on YouTube, you can find the 2-part demo session that he led that I found super helpful. And all of the resources for those sessions are found at that GitHub URL there. There's also a really handy introduction to schematron at xml.com, a great reference for XPath functions that my student writer Raj used quite a bit when he was translating ideas into syntax or kind of refining what I had initially written. You can always reach out to the guides team for a sample schematron file to get you started. I'm more than happy to share with you our schematron file containing all of the stuff that I talked about today. If you'd like to use that as a starting point or see how we've done things, you can feel free to reach out to me at mkechikero@blackberry.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. I should be the only Marco Kechikero on there. And of course, you can leverage the Adobe Experience League community to post questions and ask for help from Adobe and other users to help create and refine your rules. So in conclusion, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has attended this session. Hopefully it has helped you understand the potential of schematron to improve your day-to-day data authoring and has pointed you in the right direction if you'd like to learn more and try to create your own schematron config. And thank you again to Adobe for extending the invite for me to present here today. I enjoyed it very much. And thanks again to everyone.
Hello and welcome to our presentation about From DITA to Smart Content, how DITA and IRDS become the information backbone of the industrial Internet of Things. Let's start with a short introduction. My name is Frank Ralph. I've been working as a senior technical consultant for Parsons since 2014. My main focus is on information architecture, metadata modeling, the optimization of documentation workflows, and DITA authoring environments. My team and I created several sets of DITA XML sample content for Adobe for AEM guides to test and develop advanced DITA features for AEM.
And I'm Lukas Jacek. I am a technical communicator at Parsons, and I've worked in several information architecture projects, both with AEM guides and with other solutions, and seen how the several metadata models and solutions can interact with each other towards a harmonious solution.
Let me introduce our company, Parsons. Parsons is a small technical consulting company. Parsons was founded in 2006 and is based in Hamburg in the northern part of Germany. We are experts for all aspects of technical communication and provide documentation, consulting services, development, and training. Parsons develops information architectures for smart content and provides consulting for information management systems, the automation of content processes, and content strategies. Parsons is an Adobe technical communication partner. As experts for DITA XML, our main focus is on AEM guides and how to integrate AEM guides into the complete AEM landscape. Parsons believes in the power of open standards and is therefore one of the leading DITA ambassadors in Europe, and we are founding members and contributor to IRDS, the international standard for intelligent information request and delivery. So after this short introduction, we will tell you about what the requirements for the new industrial Internet of Things are, what the documentation related needs are. Then we give you a short overview of DITA and IRDS, the two standards that are most important for providing intelligent information. Then we will look at how intelligent information can be implemented in AEM. We will show you a short demo, how you can publish such intelligent content to an AEM site. And after that, we have a closer look at the technical implementation details if you want to implement a metadata concept based on IRDS and AEM. And we will close this presentation with the key takeaways, and you will have the option to ask us questions. Okay, let's start with the question, what does the industrial Internet of Things need? Why is intelligent information necessary today? What is this all about? In the past, documentation meant to create large manuals, either as PDF file or even print it out. But this kind of documentation does not work any longer. The digital transformation means that we have to publish to multiple output channels. That could be online media on different devices, from smartphones to displays that are integrated in machines. That can mean augmented reality or even virtual reality. And you have to provide digital information today also to digital assistants like chatbots or voice assistants. And all of these channels require targeted information. With the industrial Internet of Things, there is also ever more data and information available that must be integrated automatically into the technical documentation. This can be measurements and sensor data together with their evaluation. In addition, more and more technical components and software in production and operations are networked, so that must be integrated as well. There are more product variants available today, even up to batch size 1. And you can even create a digital twin of your product that also includes content from product and service documentation. All this requires a completely new approach to authoring and delivering technical content. We call it context-appropriate digital delivery of smart content. What does that mean? Smart content must be machine readable and modular and reusable. The content must be enriched with metadata to make it smart. It must provide the right information at the right time, and it must be individually tailored to your product and your users. That means for the delivery of smart content, the content must be individually searchable. Documents are no longer large one-size-fits-all manuals, but are dynamic compilations. The content must be able to be displayed on all devices and touch points. And finally, you also have to cater for digital assistance. To integrate all these sources of data and information and to provide targeted content to such a wide range of output channels, it is necessary to use proven standards for ensuring the interoperability across all involved components.
Now, the core idea of our talk is that DITA and IRDS are the perfect standards for bringing together your information from creation to the output. Why do we believe that? Well, let us again quickly consider the needs of intelligent information and the properties. Structurized, format-free, modular and easily reusable, semantically enriched, and offers a variety of uses for the output. Now, to achieve that, there are 4 aspects we really need to look at. We need to have a look at the underlying structure of the content itself, the metadata, semantically enriching the content, and how all those play together during processing and delivery. If we try to match this to our properties, then we will see that the structure itself provides us with the rules and the opportunities to create format-free content in which authors can easily work. Thus, the content itself can be modular and reusable and easily used for a wide variety of applications. And finally, through our semantic metadata, we can create meaningful connections between our content and are easily able to say what content packages contain which kind of information, thus ensuring that our content will be machine readable and easily processed, and thus individually searchable, easily maintainable, and generally useful upon delivery. And this is the point where our two standards, DITA and IRDS, come into play. DITA can provide the foundation. It provides both the structure and environment in which your authors can create content in an easy and modular way. And building up upon this, IRDS on one hand provides a metadata model with which you can provide some standardized semantic meaning to your content, and also provides a standardized delivery format with which you can bring your content to a variety of touch points. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper here. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the benefits of DITA and how it works, but let's just quickly recap of what the benefits in this context are. The core idea of DITA is that we have modular information in the form of topics. So basically, a topic is self-contained and answers one specific question and has one specific information purpose. So it is easily reusable. The content in DITA is XML-based, so we can transform it to a variety of output formats. It is also itself very highly semantically structured, so this way you can support your authors and easily set up clearly defined authoring processes. Furthermore, the mechanisms of DITA easily allow reuse, the use of variants of variables, references, and such, in part through the use of the ingrained metadata within DITA. DITA is also a standard that is being maintained by OASIS and has a wide variety of knowledge associated with it and support available for it. Now, looking further towards IRDS. Basically, there are two main components which IRDS offers you. For one, the standardized delivery of metadata-enriched information. IRDS has a metadata or has a package format through which you can easily make your content available through whichever touchpoint you want. It is cross-vendor and system neutral, and as such, as long as a touchpoint knows how to read it, it will also always have the right kind of information. The other part of IRDS is that it offers a uniform vocabulary for your metadata. This is achieved through an ontology that is written in OWL, a standard within the semantic web technologies. Through the use of these standardized semantic web technologies, IRDS can also easily be extended towards your needs, so you can make it fit your specific use cases without leaving the standardized world. Furthermore, IRDS aims to further and further embed and converge into the standardizations around the industrial Internet of Things. In general, it is continuously maintained and developed by the IRDS consortium, with its members from the industry, such as, for example, Siemens, SEW, Anderson Hauser, several consulting companies, and also software vendors. Now, I mentioned the ontology at the basis of IRDS. Let's maybe have a bit of a closer look at that as well. Basically, at the center of IRDS, you will find the information unit. That is basically like the topic in DITA, so basically the part that you want to convey your information with. Now, it could be a topic, it could also be a fragment or document or a package. It kind of depends on how much information you want to transport at one point. Attached to this information unit, you can then say semantically what kind of information is contained within it. Let's look at a short excerpt of the kind of metadata you can assign to it. First off, we have the information type. Through the information type, we can say what kind of information it is. For example, what kind of topic are we talking about? Is it a task, a concept? And as you can see, it's very closely aligned to the topic types that are offered in DITA. We could also, for example, have a look at the kind of information. For example, it's a technical data or a technical overview. So it is very clearly defined, okay, what does our information unit want to tell us? Also, IRDS provides mechanisms for giving information about the product that is being described by an information unit. Now, we only have really 4 basic classes here, but the idea is that they can be used as connectors for a larger product model. Either perhaps you already have an existing product model, or you could build up your product model using these classes as a basis. Since product models can be highly individualized, IRDS didn't try to make a one-size-fits-all solution, but rather offer its extension mechanisms so it can work for any kind of use case. The last example I want to look at is the functional metadata. As the name implies, functional metadata allows for several uses during content delivery. So for example, below the class event, you could have your error codes for a specific machine. When that error code pops up on the machine, it could then have a direct correlation to some troubleshooting topic. So a service technician would immediately know where to look. As you can see, this is only a small excerpt, and IRDS has a lot more to offer. But in general, you will need to look at your use cases to see what your benefits from IRDS will be.
Okay, now that you have seen a short overview and introduction of IRDS, let's have a look how these standard-based concepts of intelligent information and metadata can be implemented in Adobe Experience Manager. Just a short recap. We have seen the different levels of intelligent information and how each level is supported by one of the standards DITA and IRDS. Let's now see how these levels of intelligent information and how are implemented in AEM and how each level is supported by one of the components of AEM. Starting from the bottom, AEM Guides for authoring DITA content provides the structure and the content of intelligent information. On the next level, AEM Assets provides the powerful metadata features of AEM also for DITA content. And the delivery of smart content can be done by AEM sites or AEM headless. Let's look how this integrates into the complete process of authoring and publishing smart content in AEM. Assets are the backbone of the authoring and publishing process. All DITA content is stored in AEM as assets, like, for example, images and videos. Therefore, you can take advantage of the powerful metadata capabilities of AEM Assets also for your DITA content. AEM Guides provides an integrated authoring environment for creating and managing DITA content. You assign the required metadata during the authoring process. And finally, you can publish your DITA content in a number of formats. For example, PDF, AEM sites, or AEM headless, including the required metadata. You can then use the published metadata in the output for filtering or metadata-based advanced search features. Before we delve into the technical details, how this actually is implemented in AEM, we would like to show you a short demo of an AEM site that was created using this publication process. After that, we will dive into the details and give you an overview how metadata works in AEM and how you create a robust metadata model based on IRDS. So we would like, at this place in the presentation, would like to thank our partner, PrimeForce, which is an official Adobe partner for helping us with setting up this demo site. In 2019, PrimeForce was nominated Adobe Digital Experience Regional Partner of the Year, and they were of a big help in implementing this demo site. So what we see here could very well be the start page of a robots vendor producer for industrial robots. You see there are a lot of number of categories for different robots: transport, loading, assembly. We want to have a closer look at one specific line of products, the gantry robots. You see here, this is the landing page for the gantry robot. It's a combination of marketing content and additional content pulled from the technical documentation. You see the layout is very flexible. You can combine handwritten marketing content with technical documentation content. And you can imagine a user looking for a specific type of robot starting on this page, and then they might want to delve a little bit deeper into the details. For example, they want to know which components are part of this gantry robot. This is also a complete DITA topic, seamlessly integrated into the AM site. This can be done by the author without touching or using AM guides. You have your technical authors and your marketing content authors can work side by side, and the marketing authors can integrate the content from the technical authors directly into the AM site. There's another example for technical information pulled from the technical documentation. In this case, the technical data. You see there's below there's an additional image that was added to the technical data just to make it the site a bit more appealing, but the technical data itself is directly pulled in from the technical documentation that comes from AM guides. When we switch back to the start page and scroll down, there we have a button to jump directly into the complete technical documentation. Instead of landing on the table of content, we opted for a search page because that is the usual way most people will access your documentation. You see on the left side the number of filters. These filters are based on the metadata that you have assigned to your topics, and the metadata is based on IRDS. Let's look for an example. We look for information about the stepper motor. We want to see the technical data, and this is we want only the reference topic that is related to that. We apply the filter settings, and you see we get exactly the information we were looking for, the one topic that provides the technical data for the stepper motor. So besides using the filters, we can also use a full text search. Let's do that. This time we're searching for another component of the robot, the piston rod cylinder. And you see this time the number of filters on the left side is reduced to only those filters that are applicable to this component of the robot, which is a very convenient way to drill down on the information that you are looking for. In this case, we try to drill down because we only want to know the circuit diagram of the piston rod cylinder. We apply the filter and get exactly the one topic that answers our question. So what you can see, by integrating the technical documentation into your AM site together with the marketing content, you can create a consistent look and feel for your users and greatly enhance the user experience. And you make it easier for your authors by directly reusing technical information from the technical documentation written in AM guides, so that there's no need for copy and pasting, and the error-prone processes of doubling content are minimized.
So we showed you a little bit of what is possible. So now let's talk about how it is being done. Primarily now about how metadata in AM can be implemented. Now, first again, let's take a step back and see what kind of metadata AM guides even supports. Broadly speaking, you have two main categories: the profiling attributes DITA offers, and then the AM-specific asset metadata. Going quickly over the DITA profiling attributes, I think those working with DITA would be well aware of how they work. An easy way to explain it is you can assign conditions to your topics or to elements in your topics and say, well, for example, this task is only meant for a certain kind of audience, for example, administrators, or this step is only meant for a certain kind of product. You are able to either assign this kind of metadata through the XML syntax of DITA or through the Guides UI, which offers you an easy way to assign the metadata and also offers you the opportunity to predefine the possible values you can use within while authoring. You'd usually use this kind of metadata for variant management and for filtering your output. It should, however, be said that if you so wish, you can pass on this kind of metadata to the output as well and handle the filtering logic on a touchpoint side. Now, going further to the asset metadata, which is more AM specific. What is asset metadata? Basically, it is all kinds of properties that describe your assets within AM. An asset is basically kind of like a file in Adobe Experience Manager. As such, you will always have some predefined properties, for example, the MIME type or the creation date of your asset. It really depends on what kind of data and file we're talking about. One interesting subset of the asset metadata are the tags, which is basically also a kind of property with which you can assign predefined keywords to an asset. This might, for example, be useful if you want to quickly search for something in your assets folder, or it might also be a possible use case to pass that onto the output and use it for SEO uses, for example, in the keyword tag of HTML on your site. Really depends on what you want to use it for. From our point of view, however, the most interesting part is that you can create custom properties. And this is basically the part that gets interesting for content delivery. On the left, you can see some custom IRDS metadata that is being assigned in the AM UI. And there, for example, you can see that we have created a custom namespace with IRDS, which makes the metadata uniquely identifiable. And again, as I said, thus this can now be used for the content delivery. But how do you go about developing and implementing this kind of metadata model that you want to use? Now, before we go to AM, obviously first you have to think about what do you need your metadata for? Metadata for metadata's sake isn't really that useful. It always needs to fulfill a purpose. And there it's always very handy to think in use cases. For example, a technical writer might want to use metadata to assign the different product variants to the content and then reuse the content for the different product variants, which is, for example, where then the DITA metadata would be very useful. Looking more towards the content delivery side, a service technician, for example, might want to have specific information regarding an error code. Again, we talked earlier about the event class below the functional metadata. This would be very useful here. And as a last example, maybe someone is interested in your products and the acquisition wants to compare the technical data. So maybe it would be good for them to easily find the technical data of your various products. Let's actually hone in on that example. So we have a use case. What does that mean in metadata terms? It means basically we need a metadata that explicitly says this topic is about technical data. So in IRDS logic, this would be an information subject, also an information type, and it would be attached to your information unit. Now, AEM is not based on an ontology, so how do we make that fit? This is done by translating your conceptual metadata model into a usable interface, and you can do that via metadata schemas. What is a metadata schema? Basically, it is a custom editor to create your own metadata entry forms. When creating this form, it is easy to put in new fields via drag and drop for whichever kind of property you want to input. Then you can define how and what kind of property you want to enter in that type of field. So, for example, you can also give some description to help your author or give it a proper name. One important part is also usually to predefine some possible values you can assign for your property, as it usually makes sense to predetermine the values you want to assign in your metadata model. However, the most interesting part is here how to clarify the semantics of your metadata. And here the field map to property is important because it defines where and how your metadata will be stored. It is basically comprised of two important parts. First of, at which node in relation to your information unit will you store your property? As you can see on the right side, we have a view of the backend of AEM. The top uppermost part there is the node for the information unit. And below that, we have several nodes that describe this asset. And the node metadata is where we will want to store our new property. Actually, the node JCR content metadata is also the default node for storing asset metadata for DITA content. The last part of the map to property field is what you will call your attribute or property. Now, the first part is the namespace we have defined for IRDS, making it uniquely identifiable. And we have also written the property to align with how the properties are written in IRDS. So it could be perfectly matched with your IRDS schema. Please note that the values at the right side will only be assigned once your authors actually interact with the metadata on a certain type of asset. This is also the point at which an attribute will be assigned to the asset. But as you can see, this way you can create the basic interaction through which you can then handle your metadata model during authoring.
Okay, so you have seen how to define metadata in the backend of AEM. Now let's have a look how you actually use this metadata as an author. Well, you start as usual by writing your structured DITA content AEM guides. And as we have seen already, DITA files are treated as assets in AEM. Therefore, you can assign metadata to your DITA content as with any other asset via the user interface. The metadata you can assign is the metadata that you defined in the metadata schema. You can assign metadata to one single asset or some single DITA topic, but you have also the possibility to assign in the assets view metadata to a number of topics at once. When you then publish your metadata enriched content, you can pass the metadata that is needed in the output to the output pipeline. You can choose what metadata should be passed to the output to make the metadata available for the published content, as you have seen in the demo. And the outcome is that what we showed you in the demo, you can create an integrated user experience that combines technical data and documentation with other content and you can leverage the metadata that you apply to your DITA content to provide and to deliver a targeted topic-based content to your users in a consistent user experience. So what are the key takeaways from today's sessions? The first is that DITA and IRDS are two standards that are complementary for intelligent information and for all the new application scenarios that come with the new industrial Internet of Things.
Secondly, throughout the entire process, AM can provide you support by leveraging both of those standards. In AM Guides, you can create DITA content and assign IRDS-based metadata, and then you can use AM sites or AM headless to push your metadata-enriched content and have it used in a variety of ways.
AM also provides additional value by the possibility to combine marketing content with documentation content that can be integrated without copy and pasting.
So all that's really left is for you to jump in and discover how DITA, IRDS, and Adobe Experience Manager synergize and create incredible experiences. Thank you very much for listening to our talk.
Thanks for listening to our talk. If you have any questions, just drop us a line.
Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Ashwini Lakshminarayanan, Solutions Consultant with Adobe's TechCom Group. I'm excited to be here to discuss about the power of collaborative content reviews and approvals using Adobe Experience Manager Guides. So in this session, we will explore how AEM Guides can help organizations to streamline their content review processes, improve the collaboration, and ensure high-quality deliverables. We will discuss about the importance of the high-quality content, what are the roadblocks in achieving them, see some real-life examples, and finally, to bring the power of AEM Guides to life, we will showcase a live demo that highlights its robust review capabilities, key features, and the benefits. So by end of the session, you will have a comprehensive understanding of why collaborative review is important for your business growth and how AEM Guides can be a game changer for your organization, allowing you to deliver exceptional content experiences and stay ahead of the competition. So without further ado, let's get started. Importance of delivering high quality content. High quality content always plays a crucial role in shaping the success of businesses today. It is not just about delivering information, it's about creating the meaningful experiences, which is the foundation upon which exceptional customer experiences, strong brand reputation, and the strategic decision making are built. These are some of the key factors that determine the importance of delivering high quality content. The first one being the end user experience. Delivering high quality content is essential for providing a seamless and enjoyable experience to your audience. It ensures that your content is relevant, informative, and engaging, meeting the needs and expectations or the standards of your users. By prioritizing this end user experience, you can enhance the customer satisfaction, loyalty, and retention. Second is the brand reputation. So, high quality content is a reflection of your brand's value, expertise, and commitment to excellence. It establishes a positive brand reputation by building trust and credibility among your target audience. A strong brand reputation leads to increased brand loyalty, advocacy, and differentiation in the competitive market. Data-driven insights and optimization. So delivering this content allows you to gather valuable data and insights about your audience. By analyzing this user engagement, feedback, and the behavioral data, you can gain actionable insights to optimize your content strategy. And that allows you to create personalized or targeted content that resonates well with your users, driving better results. When we say about results, it also means supporting the sales and conversion efforts. High quality content plays a crucial role in influencing purchasing decisions and driving conversions. So, a compelling or a persuasive content can always capture the attention of potential customers, building trust and showcasing the value of your offerings. By delivering high quality content throughout the customer journey, one can nurture leads, increase the sales, and maximize the conversion rates. Compliance standards. So, ensuring high quality content is important for meeting regulatory requirements and compliance standards. It helps you to avoid legal and reputational risks associated with non compliant or inaccurate content. By maintaining this compliance, you demonstrate your commitment to ethical practices, gaining the trust of your audience and stakeholders. Let's see some real life incidents where documentation errors contributed to huge losses. The first one is Knight Capital Group trading loss. In August 2012, Knight Capital Group, a financial services firm, experienced a significant trading loss due to an error in their trading software documentation. The software was updated, but the documentation failed to specify the correct method for installing the new code. As a result, when the system went live, it began executing unintended trades at a rapid pace, leading to a massive accumulation of erroneous trades within minutes. So this incident resulted in a loss of approximately 440 million for the firm, and that led to the company's acquisition by another firm. Oakhurst Diary. So this example will take you by surprise when I say a missing comma in the line has caused 10 million lawsuit. In 2017, Oakhurst Diary, it's a milk and cream company, faced a costly lawsuit due to a missing comma in their documentation. So this the lack of comma in the policy's language led to ambiguity and resulting in a dispute. So the court ultimately ruled in favor of the employee, stating that the absence of the comma in the statement created ambiguity, and that resulted in the company having to pay approximately 10 million in back wages and damages. Airbus A320 crash in France. So this is another major incident where the documentation provided to the pilots for the demonstration flight incorrectly indicated that the aircraft could perform a low altitude flyover at a certain speed and configuration. So, however, the documentation did not account for various factors, including the weight of the aircraft and the required safety margins. So basically, as a result, the pilots misinterpreted the information, leading to the aircraft crashing into trees and resulting in significant loss of life. So these are some examples, and we understand how important it is to deliver a quality content. So what are the challenges in delivering this high quality content? So reviewers finding the tools or interface to be new and challenging, probably a struggle to navigate a complex content review platform, resulting in delays and confusion during the review process. Content misalignment with the business objectives and target audience. Sometimes content creators unintentionally create the content that doesn't align with the company's goals or fail to resonate with the intended audience, leading to missed opportunities or reduced impact that it was supposed to create. Third, the timely delivery and bottlenecks in the approval processes. A scenario where content approvals get stuck in a lengthy and convoluted review process, causing delays in delivering timely and the relevant content to the audience. Fourth is the transparency, very important factor. So transparency in the review workflow status among the authors and reviewers. It's not always easy for authors and reviewers to stay on the same page and track the progress of the content reviews, which results in miscommunication, duplicated efforts, and an inefficient workflow. Content strategy, governance, and version control. So when there are multiple authors working on the same content piece without proper content strategy, then it results in inconsistencies, conflicting information, and difficulties in maintaining a unified brand voice. limited insights for iterative improvement in an agile world. So in today's fast-paced world, insights for continuous improvement are vital. Without them, content teams may miss out on opportunities to optimize their content and meet evolving audience needs. Content refresh and update cycles to maintain relevance. We often come across few sites where the updated information remains live, causing confusion among the users, and that affects the brand's reputation, obviously, right? So basically, these are the that challenges in delivering the high quality content. By addressing these challenges, we can overcome hurdles in delivering the high quality content. But how can we address them? To address these challenges in delivering high quality content, we must have an effective review and collaboration process in place that focuses on two important things, that is tools and processes, and second one, the content architecture. Speaking of tools or processes, that has a user-friendly editing interface for the authors and reviewers, online collaboration, that is having an online or web collaboration, allowing real-time collaboration, enabling the authors and reviewers to send and receive feedback and instantly incorporate the changes. Third one is a streamlined review and approval. So that helps to eliminate the bottlenecks and ensure timely feedback and approvals. So, and the content storage and management, keeping all the stakeholders informed about the review workflow, making it easier to track progress and identify any potential issues. So to address that, the tool or the process, it should have a dashboard and the notification or the tracking mechanisms in place. And speaking of content architecture, this review and collaboration system should support or adapt a modular and structured content architecture like DITA, allowing for easy content reuse, making updates and the maintenance being more efficient. Implementing a single sourced approach that ensures consistency across various channels and reducing the risk of errors during the content duplication. Separation of content and presentation. So in a headless space, this allows for greater flexibility in content delivery and adaptation to different formats or platforms. Audit trails and version. So implementing audit trails and version history capability provides visibility into content changes, ensuring accountability and facilitating content governance. By implementing these improvements in our review and collaboration process, we can streamline the workflows, improve the communication, and enhance the overall quality of our content. So we have been discussing various pointers regarding review and collaboration so far. So considering all the key factors that we have been discussing now, there should be a solution that has incorporated all these things already to build a good quality content. Adobe Experience Manager Guides, also referred as AEM Guides. So it's a powerful enterprise-grade component content management system that enables native data support in Adobe Experience Manager, where you can handle data-based content creation and delivery. So it's a CCMS where it has all core functionalities such as collaboration, review, translation, search, and reporting capabilities. So it enables authors and reviewers to do more in less time through efficient content reviews and powerful workflows. It can revolutionize your content review and collaboration processes by streamlining the reviews, ensuring high quality content, and accelerating the delivery of exceptional digital experiences. It allows authors to seamlessly send content for review, collaborate with the reviewers in real time, and track the progress of the review tasks. With AEM guides, you can easily incorporate the feedback, address the comments, and ensure that your content meets the highest standards before it gets published. So let's dive deeper into the review workflow in AEM guides and discover how it can transform your content review processes. So in the review workflow of Adobe Experience Manager Guides, authors access files from a robust content management system and create content. This content is then sent to a group of reviewers for their input. If the content is approved, then it gets published across various formats such as AEM sites, PDF, HTML, and knowledge bases like Salesforce, Zendesk. However, if the content requires further improvement or updates, reviewers send it back to the authors where the real-time collaboration takes place, allowing the authors to see the feedback comments instantly and collaborate the necessary changes. This iterative process ensures seamless collaboration and enables the creation of high-quality content that meets the organization's requirements. So here is a snapshot of the guide's review interface, which is simple yet powerful, has intuitive features such as highlighting content, strike through for removal, adding annotations, attaching files, and seamlessly incorporating additional lines of content in read mode basically. So reviewers can easily communicate their suggestions and improvements. This user-friendly interface fosters a productive and collaborative environment, ensuring that the final content always meets the highest standards of quality. We will now dive into a live demo where you can witness how the features and capabilities we have been discussing so far come to life in Adobe Experience Manager Guide. So once you log in, you will see this main navigation screen where you will have to click on the guides icon to open the guides interface here. So let's go to the repository panel and access the content. So I've also used added this particular content to my favorites, DITAWORLD. So I can access it from here as well. So this is the content which we are going to use for this demo. So we know that the review capability in guides allows authors to send their work for review to reviewers group. When you, at a very basic level, when you install guides on-prem, or if you have guides enabled on your cloud, there are 3 user groups which gets created specific for guides: authors, publishers, and reviewers. So the prerequisite is that if you're a reviewer or an author, make sure you're added to the particular user group by your admin before getting started. So authors and publishers can generally initiate the review, and if you're a reviewer, you should be part of the reviewers group. So there are 3 prerequisites you need to understand before getting started with the review. So the first one is you should have the required permissions to send the content or review the content. So I have logged in as an admin here. So I have the enough privileges to send or review content. Second step, you should have versioned your content to send for review. So this is the content that we have, and we see the content is already being versioned, so it's eligible for review. Third is you must have a review project created and should have added all the team members who would be part of the review project. So we are going to access the projects icon here, and then we are going to create a review project and then add as many review tasks for that particular review project. I have created one already, and I've added all the required team members to the review project and the assets required for the review project. And you can see there is a active review task associated to this particular review project. I can open the dashboard and then see what are the review tasks associated to it, and then understand the status of it. So I can click on this particular review task and then see the detailed status of this review task. So currently it has been assigned to 3 different reviewers, Alex, Andrea, and Olive. So Alex and Andrea, they have already started working on it, and the status is in progress, and they have actioned on these many reviews, and they have left 3 comments, and the last accessed time was 5th June. However, Olive hasn't started with the review yet, so the last accessed time is set to never. Specific for this demo, let's create a new review project and see how it works. So to create a review project, it has to be It should be a DITA project template. And I set a due date for this particular project, and I add the required users who would be part of this particular project. So I have added the enough number of reviewers who would be part of this review project, and then let me click on create. So the project is created. So if you see, this is the as an administrator, I have created a review project and I have added the required team members. So the pending task is I will have to create a review for my content and assign it to these reviewers. So this is the third prerequisite of having the review project created. So we have also completed the third step. So we are good to start with the review process. So let's go back to the editor view. And this is the topic, this is the map that we are going to send for review. So if you want to send a particular map for review, you can send either as a map or many topics. So you can send one or more topics or a map to a different review tasks as well. For example, if I have created a content and I would like to get it reviewed from 4 different reviewer groups, then you can assign those reviewer groups to the particular task which I'm creating, the review task which I'm going to create. So let's first create the review task. And I'm going to use the project which I have created just now. It's DITAWorld Review Demo. And here I can assign it to one or more reviewer groups, or I can assign it individually to the different reviewers as well. So I'm going to send it to the entire reviewers and also Alex, Andrea, and Olive separately. And I'm setting a due date for this particular review task. The earlier due date has been set for a review project, whereas this is specific for the review task, which is getting created for the map that I have created for review, and we are assigning this particular review task to this DITAWorld Review Demo project. So in this review task, you get to have these options. Either you can choose all these topics based on their latest version, or the version based on the date, or based on a label, or if you have created a baseline for this content, for this map, then you can also select a baseline. So for now, I'll just use the latest version that I have and then click on next. So here at this step, I can choose the topics. I can either add or remove the users, and if I want to reassign to a different reviewer, then I can also do the same. So for now, I have added the reviewers and separately, and also to the reviewer group. So let's create the review task. So now that you have sent your content for review, so once you have sent this content for review, reviewers would be notified of the task assigned to them, and they can open the notification from their inbox and then start doing their review. So I have also logged in as a reviewer, Andrea, and in an incognito window. So let's see the notification that I have received. So this is the task that I have created for the content. So I can just click on the bell icon and open the notification that I have received to review my content, and then I get to see this review interface where I can start my review. So basically there are 3 sections. So the leftmost section describes the number of topics that are available or that are sent for your review, and the middle section opens the content of the topics, and the rightmost section you have two panels. One is the commenting panel and second is the conditions panel. So here if you keep adding your comments, it will get displayed here. It will list out all the number of comments that you have added for your topic, and this is the actual editor or the reviewer panel where you get to add your comments. So let's get started with the review. I'll start with highlighting the content. So maybe I can highlight this content and then add my comment. If I don't want to have this piece of content here, then I can mark it as deletion. So using a strike through icon. So when I strike through this piece of content, then it is referring to that the reviewer is asking the author to delete this piece of content. Also, I can add the sticky notes wherever possible. So this picture looks good, so I have added my comment here. And this image seems broken, so maybe I can ask why this particular image is broken. If I want to add some extra content here, I can also do that. So this indicates that the author should add more information under this intended audience category. So once I have done all of these, and also I can check the other reviewers' comments. For example, if they have commented already, I can go to the filter section. I can see the review status, whether or not it is accepted or rejected, and the review type, the kind of review, whether it's a highlight, deletion, insertion. So I can filter the comments based on the review type, based on the reviewers, and also the version for which you have reviewed your content. So based on the version, you can filter your comments here. And this is text-based search. For example, if I want to search a comment that has Apollo keyword, then I can just search for Apollo, and the search results would fetch me all the comments that has this Apollo keyword. So this is the commenting panel. The second is the conditions panel, where you can highlight all the conditions, or basically you can hide or show the comments, show the content based on the conditions set here. So this panel you can enable or disable the conditions and see how your content looks. In case if you want to see the content based on the review, or preview the content based on the audience, then you can go to the preview section and then filter the content based on the intended audience. For example, if I want to see only the content which is targeted only for the admin users, then I can just disable the general users category and then see the content that is applicable for admin and then review the content accordingly. Similarly, if I want to see only the general users content and not the admin content, then I can enable the audience attribute, and then I can check how the content looks for the general users category. So this way I can preview my content and do the review process completely end to end. So now that I have completed my review, so let's go back to the author view and then see how these comments are available for the authors. So I'll switch back to the author mode. So you can see the comments which are added by my reviewer here. So if you see, I haven't refreshed my page here. So almost instantly, all the review comments which are given by the reviewer is instantly reflected in the author's editor view. So here I can do a side-by-side check and then see what are the differences between the version I had and what is the recommendation or the improvement that has been given as a review comment by the reviewer. So this particular text needs to be removed. So this way you can check, you can do a side-by-side view check and see the difference between the old content and the reviewed content. So if you see this particular image is broken, so I can do a quick check and understand why this particular image has been broken, whether it is broken at the source. So yeah, this content has already been broken even before the review. So as an author, I would need to go back and check why this this particular picture is broken, and then fix it and then send the content back to the reviewer. So this icon is to force import all the comments into the author view. So if you are seeing all the comments that have been given by the reviewer, if you want to accept it, you can click on this thumbs up icon, and if you want to reject the comment, you can click on thumbs down icon. So if you're okay with all the suggestions that have been given by the reviewer, then you can click on this particular icon that would import all the comments into the author view. So I have incorporated all the changes in one go. All the changes that have been sent by the reviewer. So and then I would bump my version. So this way I can keep upgrading my content and send the further updated content to the reviewer back again for review. So this review project, so this would list out all the associated review projects which are created for this particular content. So there was a review task which I have created already before this demo. So here you can see there are several different reviewers. They have given their comments here, so which means multiple reviewers can also do the review for a piece of content here. So similarly, I can do a site check or force import my content and then do the changes. For example, if they have attached any particular document, any attachment for the author, then you can click on this download all attachment, and that would download all the attachments that have been added by the reviewer in the review interface. So if I'm a project owner, then I can go back and check the overall progress between the authors and the reviewers progress here. So I can go to the review dashboard and then check the status. So Carleen and Olive, they haven't started, and Alex haven't started, and Andrea has started working on this project, and these are the comments that have been left for this particular topic, and the last accessed time is 5th June. And if I'm a reviewer, then I can go back to the review dashboard and mark my review to be completed. I can go back to the notification screen and then click on a particular review task that has been assigned to me, and if I have completed my review, then I can mark it as complete. So this would instantly notify the user, the project owner, or the initiator of this project that this particular task has been marked complete by the reviewer. And you can also enable the email notifications and other custom implementations in the workflow based on your business requirements to notify the reviewer whether a particular content has been sent for review. To summarize, we have explored the powerful review capabilities of AEM Guides and the significant impact it can have on delivering high quality content. With its web-based platform and the structured content management, ensuring a streamlined and efficient review process. The inbuilt review capabilities that allows the teams to collaborate seamlessly, create and track the review tasks for effective teamwork, and the content versioning and the workflow automation features, which offers more control and visibility over the content changes that maintains the accuracy and consistency of the content. So through seamless collaboration and incorporation of content updates, AEM Guides enables iterative improvement, and that drives the continuous enhancement, which would revolutionize the content review and the approval processes. With that, we have reached the end of this session. I hope you found this information and the demonstrations useful in understanding the importance of collaborative content reviews and the capabilities offered by AEM Guides. So if you have any further questions or would like to explore this solution in more detail, please feel free to reach out. Thank you for your time and participation, and I wish you all a productive and successful day ahead.
Hello, welcome to another session at Adobe DITAWORLD 2023. My name is Leroy Steinbacher. I am a solution consultant for AEM Guides, and I am very happy to be here today to talk to you about PDF like a boss. Say hello to DITA's new best friend, Adobe's cloud-native PDF engine. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the DITA publishing landscape, and we'll discuss some of the benefits and challenges associated with DITA publishing, along with some of the pros and cons of automated versus custom pagination. We'll also take a closer look at the AEM Guides native PDF engine and how it can be used to manage style within the same interface that's used to author and manage content. Finally, we'll take a look at some of the technologies that are used by the native PDF and some of the benefits of making some of those settings within the native PDF engine to maximize your ownership of your own published PDFs. So some of the key takeaways will be to discover the ease and flexibility of PDF customization within Guides. We'll also take a look at the wide range of options that you have to make changes to your PDF style sheets at your fingertips. And then we'll also cover how you can transform your DITA to PDF workflows with customizations that are intuitive and enabling you to do self-sufficient style sheet design, PDF style sheet design for your style guidelines and your branding directly within the tool. So, say hello to native PDF and say goodbye to costly and time-consuming external dependencies. So who is the boss of your PDF? Is it your style sheet vendor? Maybe you have an external company that comes in and updates your style sheets every time you need to make a change to your output based on various customer requirements. Or perhaps you're relying on the DITA Open Toolkit and some of the custom plugins that are supplied out of the box within that tool. Or maybe if you're customizing some of those DITA Open Toolkit plugins, you're dependent on the one techie on your team that understands XSLFO and all the moving parts that are involved in creating PDF using that PDF rendering engine. Or perhaps you're limited to using desktop publishing for your custom PDF design, where you may have someone in InDesign that has to do custom layouts and style decisions within a desktop publishing tool. So I'd like to take a quick look at the 2020 DITA satisfaction report. I know it's a few years back, but this kind of gives us kind of an understanding of where teams and managers are at in terms of their use of DITA, at least 3 years back, relatively recently. So in one of the reported features was the benefits, the top 3 benefits of using DITA reported by teams. So technical documentation teams that have successfully adopted DITA have reported on a variety of benefits, and these are the top 3. 82% consistency, right? Content consistency, following a consistent structure is very crucial or critical for developing content that's consistent and reusable. The second benefit is publishing. So 68% of the users reported that one of the main benefits is publishing, being able to take your content and publish it to multi-channels, whether it be PDF, HTML, or any other type of output type that may be needed. And then the third benefit is usability. Content usability improvements, 53% reported that. So what's interesting is that 68% reported publishing as the number 2 benefit of implementing DITA XML within their teams. So with that in mind, let's take a look at another statistic from that report. Managers that have adopted DITA face some challenges even under the best of circumstances. So the top 3 challenges that were reported by managers. Number 1, content reuse. 41% said that its inability to effectively repurpose and reuse content is a challenge. And that's where it's a benefit, but then it's also a challenge to, actually maximize the ability of reuse that you can potentially have. Takes some information analysis, content strategy, and all those things. So it's a benefit, but it's also a challenge as you're migrating your content, maybe from long form content to a structured content environment. But what's interesting here is the number 2 and the number 3 challenges are both related to publishing. 29% says the inability to publish output as desired, and then another 29% said the inability to adequately control the formatting of DITA content. So what's interesting to me when I look at these 2 results is that one of the main benefits of moving to DITA is publishing, and then also the 2 and 3 challenges, number 2 and 3 challenges of moving to DITA also involve publishing. So it's just an example of, these are some great features, but they present certain challenges along the way. And that's what we're going to discuss today, about how to overcome some of those challenges, at least with publishing PDF, and empowering your managers and your teams to kind of get a handle on those. So let's quickly go over some of the manual desktop publishing pros and cons. Maybe it's like, I have to do my document in InDesign because the layout is complex and I need to make changes. So sure, complete flexibility for one-offs and custom layout requirements that can be handled in desktop publishing. Also, templates can be modified on the fly as needed for brochures or different ad campaigns. But then the problem is, if you have all that flexibility, custom layouts can then lead to a variation in your design, which may break style guidelines and conventions. And then also, if you're sending your content for review, reviewers will need to focus both on the content and the style sheet or the style requirements that you may have. Moving on to style sheet driven publishing. Style changes, if you want to make a change to your style, it has to be made within a template or a custom plugin. And then any changes that are made, so let's say you publish your output and you make some changes to that PDF or HTML after you publish it, those changes are only temporary and they get lost, the next time you may publish that same content for a future release. But some of the pros are pagination and layout. It's automatically applied during publishing and follows consistent rules and conventions. And so that way your company-driven style guidelines are consistently followed across all of your published documents. So there are some pros and cons to style sheet development as well as custom desktop publishing. But when you kind of keep these factors in mind, it's helpful to decide, well, what am I gaining and what am I losing versus using one option or the other. But what if I told you you can build both PDF content and style within the same tool? So here's one of those managers who is facing some of those challenges, and this particular manager discovers native PDF engine within AEM Guides. So DITA XML gives authors, the ability to focus on developing content without worrying about layout and style. That's the nice thing about DITA. Instead of spending time custom desktop publishing, the native PDF engine within the AEM Guides can be used to automatically create custom layouts and styles based on configurable templates and presets. So within the same tool, you can work on your content, and then when you want to focus on your output, you can go to your native PDF output tab and then lay out the look and feel of your document using standard conventions within your style sheet. So here's an example. That's a screenshot of AEM Guides within the authoring mode. And what I have open here, and within this tab, you can see your content is on the left, and then you have a preview of your content in the center. As you're looking at the preview of that particular document in the map. We'll be using this in the demo in a few minutes. But then you also have the option within looking at that same document, you can also click on the Output tab, and this Output tab is going to expose some templates and some presets. And so a template is basically a starting point of how you want to create a particular style sheet for a custom layout and look and feel of a PDF. And there's several default templates that come with guides. But for this particular example, you can expose the page layouts, which will show you all the different variations of pages you can have in your PDF. You'll have the ability to look at your style sheets for both content and layout, and then some resources that you may want to include within your PDF. And it's within a WYSIWYG environment where you can click on certain options. Like for instance, this is the chapter first page, and you can control the various aspects of that page layout with your content properties. Then also, once you have your templates in place, you have the ability to select presets. And so what that does basically is a preset says, okay, I want to use this template, but then I also want to set some of these other options in order to deliver my PDF. Like, if I want to use a DITA val or a specific condition, if I want to publish a PDF with change bars, and a lot of other different things that you can set. We'll go over those as well in the demo. So the technology that's used by the native PDF engine is it's based on open standards. So that's the nice thing. It's not some proprietary PDF magic, that Adobe has cooked up. It's actually using standards and open source standards, but it's what it's doing is it's applying them within the tool itself. So you don't have to go around and create those files externally and modify those files in different places and upload those files to a custom plugin somewhere for processing. You have access to these files and these resources directly within the tool, and then you're able to apply them as well directly within the tool. But it's following some standard conventions. So for page layout, you're using the CSS Paged Media Convention, which is a W3C standard. For content layout, you're using the CSS3 standard, which includes advanced CSS and HTML, and then you also have the ability to include JavaScript as needed for additional processing of your style sheet for your PDF. So just looking at how those technologies are applied within that same PDF template screen we're looking at, the CSS Paged Media is used within the Page Layouts tab. And then the CS3 standard is used within these two files that we have for style sheets, one for content and one for layout. And then there's some custom options that you can also set within these settings. So the nice thing is a lot of these pieces are already in place for some of these different built-in templates. You're not building anything from scratch. You're starting with something that already exists at a couple different levels for the different templates that are built in, and then you can build on those as needed as you want to customize those and make changes for your PDF. So there are several benefits, additional benefits for using the native PDF engine within AEM Guides. One, you can decide, you can set up your presets for whether you're publishing your PDF for the web or if you're publishing for print. So for the web, you may want to optimize your file size for online delivery. You probably want to include full PDF compression an image compression. Maybe you want to set a custom resolution, and then you probably want to use an RGB color for web delivery, where people will be downloading their PDFs and just viewing them online. They won't necessarily be taking those PDFs for print. But maybe you also have some publishing requirements where you do actually have to take that PDF and send it for print. Well, you can also set options which will optimize those PDFs by including high quality, pre-press ready content, embed the ICC profiles, and then you have the option of including bleed and crop marks as needed, as well as CMYK color. So within the same tool, you have settings to handle multiple output requiremements, whether it's on the web or whether it's for print. And then you also have the ability to for compliance and metadata to set up your PDFX compliance. You can have fully tagged PDFs that will include a specific metadata that you want to have packaged with your PDF. You're able to include change tracking if you want to have a PDF that shows, well, what's changed since the last release. And we'll look at that in the demo as well. And then you also, when you're publishing, you have the ability to publish from different baselines. So you have version control, where maybe you want to publish a draft of a PDF for a new release, or maybe you need to have a hotfix that goes back to make a change for maybe a version that was released a little while ago, but you need to make some changes. You have all that control when you're publishing your PDF. Okay, so I think I'm going to move on now for a brief demo of how you can use the native PDF tool to customize some of your style sheet requirements. Okay, so now we're looking at the AEM Guides interface. This is all web-based, so everything is within the AEM environment. And these are the tabs that we looked at before, the Author tab and the Output tab. Now within the Author tab, I have what's set up here is it's already opened the map within the map view, and then it's also taken that map and it's given you a preview of that map view, just to kind of give you an idea of the content that's within Guides and the online editing of that content. So for instance, if I want to make a change to this particular topic within this map, I can scroll through to the different topics that I want to look at. Let's say I want to make a change to this topic. I can simply say edit. It opens up that topic in an edit mode. I can unlock it and add things as needed. I can make changes, add a note, remove a note, all within the online editor. I'm just going to unlock this and close it. Then I also have control of my style sheet in the Output tab. So if I click on Output, you can see it changes my tools on the left-hand side. I have templates and I have presets. So my templates, there's 3 that come out of the box. There's the basic template, there's the high-tech template, and there's the prime template. And what I've done for the sake of time is published that same document we're looking at to each one of those, so you can kind of get a look and feel of what these default out-of-the-box templates look like when you're publishing PDF. So the basic template is very similar to what you might see if you're publishing to the DITA Open Toolkit basic PDF. There's nothing really special about it. You just have your headings, different sizes for your headings. You have basic pagination with page numbers, footnotes, and other things as needed. Your header simply has the manual title. Not much to it. There's no back cover, there's no front cover, there's no TOC. It's really, like it says, basic. If you want a really basic starting point and you want to build everything else on your own. But let's say you want to have something that's already set up. So this is the one that's called Prime. So this one does have a front cover. It also has a back cover. And you have some control of what content goes there. You could add like a published date or some other kind of metadata. And then you'll see that it does set things up for left and right pages. So you have a left page and a right page. And then you can see for the chapters, you're getting a chapter number and a chapter prefix. You're also getting a little mini TOC for each chapter. And then you have a header and footer, and the header has a little bit more of a descriptive text that's actually covering some of your content and not just the manual name. And then the back cover, like we talked about. And then there's finally the third one is called High Tech. And this one has a more customized front cover, also with the same metadata of the date that's when this document was published, along with a custom graphic. And then this shows you where you can also insert some variables, let's say company name, company website. Also taking into consideration left and right pages. Very similar to the other one, we have a chapter TOC, slightly different style for the headings. Chapter 1's numbered, and then you have some additional information that you can include in your footer. And then scrolling down, there's also a custom back cover, again with copyright, website, and then maybe some additional links that you might want to include for Twitter, Facebook, or social media. So that just kind of gives you a preview of what the out-of-the-box templates look like. So, but for the purposes of this demo, I'd like to start with the basic template. And so what I've done is I've created a copy for testing, and then I created a copy of this basic template just for the purposes of this demo. And so what you can do, if you don't want to touch the default ones, which is probably a good idea, you can just click here and say duplicate. Then you can duplicate and give it a new name. And then when you're making changes on a new template based on one of the source ones, so you can always fall back on that as needed, keeping that as a backup. So if I take a look at my presets, what I've done is I'm going to need to create a new preset because I have one for basic and basic copy, but now I want to create a preset for the basic DW23 DITAWorld. So if I want to create a preset, I want to make this a PDF. I'm going to call this DW. I'm going to call it basic DW23. And I'm going to say I want to generate the PDF using native PDF. So now I have my preset. So my preset gives me a lot of other options I can choose when I'm publishing, but the important one is I'm going to select right away the layout. And the layout is I'm going to say I want to use the template that I want to modify for basic DW, DITAWorld 23. Okay, and I'm going to save this. But one of the things I want to point out is that you have the ability to create a condition. You can set a condition, whether it be a DITAVAL, or you can set up a condition set within the tool as well. You're able to use a baseline. So let's say I want to publish the content as it existed for a particular release, I can do that. Or if I want to, let's say I want to publish a PDF that shows all the changes that have made since that release, I can do that as well. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to say, I want to show the added text and the deleted text that's for all the changes that have been done since my release 1. So there have been some things that I've done in preparation for this demo that we'll be able to see what's been changed and what's been added. So I'm going to save that preset. Just to give you an idea of what else is available, you have the ability to add metadata directly to your PDF. This is what would show up if you go into the PDF and look at the properties. You have the ability to, well, we already looked at the template that we're going to use, but then you can also decide on when your PDF is opened in Acrobat how you want it to be viewed, how you want it to be displayed, any custom zooming that you want to do. You can also set security on your PDF in this tab, password, or any document restrictions. And then you have a number of other options that you may want to apply under the advanced setting here, such as show watermark, enable MathML, a lot of different things that you enable JavaScript, some of the other things that you may want to do. PDF conformance, we talked about that. You can apply that within this tab. Okay, so I think we have our preset all set in place. So what I'd like to do is now take a look at the template that we're using, make some changes to the template. And so I am going to click on Basic DITAWorld 23. And what that's going to do is it's going to open up now this template exposing the different aspects that we looked at before. So the one thing you maybe notice is that the page layout, there's only a couple within the basic template. You have your common page and your TOC. It doesn't have all the chapter first and left pages. This is really kind of just starting from scratch, so it only has a few. But you also still have then the same 2 style sheets that you need for content and layout. And then any resources that you may have, we don't have any custom graphics or anything. And then down here we have some settings. So let's start by taking a look at the style sheet for content. So if I click on this, it's going to open another tab. So this is my content style sheet. It gives me a list of all of the elements that you would find within a DITA map or topic. So specifically what I'd like to do is, if you noticed here for this is the default that there was no numbering. So it's like, hey, it'd be really nice to have numbering, and then maybe I'd like to add a prefix of chapter or a prefix of section within my PDF. So let's see what we can do to add that. So what that means is I want to take a look at my headings. So I have my heading 1, heading 2, 3, 4, and 5 if needed. And you can see I have the ability to add an auto number here. I also have the ability to change all the other stylistic aspects of this heading. The font I want to use, the border I want to use, if any, and the layout. So you have control of all these stylistic features, and then as you make a change, your preview will automatically give you an update of what that would look like when you're publishing. So let's start by working on the auto number. And so I want to limit my tags to just the ones that are dealing with headings. Okay, so now I can just see heading 1 through 6. We won't look at all 6. So if I select heading 1 and I select auto number, I'm going to now, for heading 1, I want to say I want to use a decimal style for my numbering. And then here, this is the format. That's the number there within the X. But what I want to do is I also want to add a prefix. So I want to say chapter, and I want to now increase the width of that prefix so everything fits in the same line. And I think that's all I need for chapter 1. If I go to heading 2, I also want to auto number. I'm going to say decimal. And this for heading 2, I'm going to say section. I want to have the number, but I also want to insert a level. So I want to have section 1 from the number from heading level 1, and then I also want to put a prefix here, section 1. And then I want to increase the width here as well to handle the text. Okay. Moving along for heading 3, I also want to auto number that. I also want to use decimal. But then what I'm going to do for my format, I'm going to include level 1. And then I also want to include level 2. Okay, so now I have those different levels in my numbering. And I'm not going to add a prefix to this one, so I'll just leave this as is. And then heading 4, we're going low into the headings, so we're going to say also numbering decimal. And this one we're going to do insert level 1, insert level 2, insert level 3. Okay, and then I'm going to also, I don't need to make any changes to the width, so I'm going to now save that. Okay, so we've done a couple different things. We've added numbering, and then we've also within the preset set to show change bars. So what I'm going to do now, if I go back to my preset, this is where we actually publish your content. The preset is pointing to this template, which we just modified. And within that template, it's referring to this style sheet, which we just made some style sheet changes to. So if I go back to my preset, now I can select generate that preset. So it's going to be publishing that PDF. It shouldn't take very long, maybe just a few seconds. And so now what we're looking for in our output is change bars. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. So you can see here, this is where we've added some text. This content has been inserted. This is a change that I made since I did the baseline for release 1. And you can see now we have chapter 1, we have section 1.1, we have section 1.2. You can see I made a change here. I removed major and inserted spaceship. We have level 3 headings here. And again, here's another section. This is section 1.3 with some subsections. And if we go even further down, there is a lower level where we have a heading level 4. Anything else special? No. Okay. So we have numbering, and then we also have change bars applied to this content. So, but just looking through this PDF, one more thing that I want to do, and maybe you noticed down here, this is a special kind of note. Okay, it's actually a note type equals caution. So there's a style that's applied to this. And just to take a look at how, well, maybe I want to modify the style of those different notes. And for the purposes of that, I had a couple of notes that I've added appear to the first page so we can test these. Because this is a note type caution, note type warning, note type danger. So what I'd like to do is a couple of things. I'd like to modify the color of that bar, and then I actually would like to add a prefix so we can see, without just looking at the color code, what type of note that is. So let's go back to our template. So what we want to do is we want to now, within the content style sheet, look at, instead of headings, we want to look at note. Now let's just try note. There we go. Okay, so wow, we got a whole bunch of notes. So what that is basically you have your default note, you have your note type equals caution. If you hover over, you can see what the types are. Note equals danger, note notice, note warning, and then note tutorial info, which must be a special kind of note that may be needed in some places. So what I'd like to do is I want to change my note for note type equals caution. All right, so this is where I have the ability to change some of that style. For caution, I want to change the border. You can see that there's this color that's used for border. I don't really like that color. I'm going to use standard colors that are typically used for these type of safety notices. So I'm going to say I want this to be yellow. And some colors you can just type in the name. You don't necessarily have to know the code. And the other thing I wanted to do is, if you notice here, there's not a lot of space in between these. So what I'd like to do is, add some padding around this note and add a little bit of a border to separate the note, to make that note stand out a little bit. So I am going to, under layout, actually I'm going to do the padding and the border to the generic note. So let me go back to do that, because that's going to be the same for all notes. So I'll just finish what I'm doing for the specific note type. So this is caution, yellow, and then I want to change this to danger. So for danger, I want that to be a bright red. All right, and then I believe this was the last one for warning. Warning, I want warning to actually be orange. Okay, let's save that. So let me just go through and make sure I have yellow for caution. For danger, I have red. For warning, I have orange. Okay, perfect. All right, so I saved that. Now I want to go back to notes. If I make a change to the note, the basic note, these changes apply to all of these as well if I make something that's different for the layout. So I'm going to go back here, and to the layout, I want to change my notes. I want to say, I want a margin. I want a margin of, let's say, 10 pixels. And then I also want to add some padding. So I'm going to add padding. I'm going to change that from 0.3 to, let's say, 1. Okay. So you can see there's a preview that also gives you an idea where I've added, like, the padding is showing up here. So I'm going to do a save. So now if we look at these notes, I've made all those changes. I've changed the color, and I've changed the padding, and I've changed the margins. So if we go back now to our preset and we publish this one more time, should just take a minute, then we want to look to see how those changes have modified the look of our different note types within the PDF. Okay, so we can see here, this is not a very good example. These are all squished together. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's because of the change tracking. Let me go down, let me change that change tracking and see if that makes a difference. But you can see here, now we have the padding and the margins. I'm going to do this one more time, but I am going to, in the general, I'm going to turn off this change tracking feature, save that. And just so you know, the change tracking, that's also a style that you can modify. If you don't like this color, or if you don't like this this pop-up, that you can also control those, that look and feel of that as well. Okay, so we've published this again. Let's see if that makes the difference that we want. There we go. Okay, so the change tracking did some funny business with our notes, but you can see now we have, this is a regular note, note type equals caution, note type equals warning, note type equals danger. So we've done a couple of things. We've made some changes. This PDF is looking a lot better, but if we go down here, there's one last thing that I want to fix, because we're still not seeing note type equals caution. So what I'd like to do is show you one other option you have. There are some style CSS features that are within the style sheet that are not all covered within the interface in terms of the drop-down menus and the things that you can control. So you have the ability, if you have some advanced CSS skills, to then also not just look at this interface, but you can say, hey, show me the source, which is, my happy place. Whenever I'm looking at CSS, I like to see the source. So I'm going to click on the source, and I'm going to go down here to where my notes are. And if I need to do a search, I can find note. Okay, so I've gotten to the area of my CSS, which, like I said, is I'm very comfortable here. It can be a little scary if you're not used to it, but you have the ability. Good CSS developers will have comments, have things organized in a way where you can find it. So what I really want to do is I want to add some custom CSS that will give me my prefix for the different types of notes. And I have that handy. So I'm going to just go to my other screen, copy and paste, just to kind of give you an idea of how this is handled. Nothing really complex, right? We just have the note. If it's just a generic note, you have a before and content says note. I want that bold and uppercase. And then for these other note types, it's pretty basic. Note, caution, before, I want caution. Warning, I want warning. Danger, I want danger. Nothing too complex. And then this style that I applied to the generic note, like we did before, will also be applied to these other notes. So I'm going to save it, go back to my preset, publish it again. view the output. So now we can see we do have generated text that will now say if we have a note, it's going to identify what kind of note that is. Note caution, note warning, note danger. And then if we scroll down here where we didn't have that included in the note text, we can see now we have a caution and a warning. So this gives you the ability to, take your hazard information, your notes, any kind of particular, convention that you want to use to display those. You now have the ability to control within your PDF template, and then you're able to apply that template directly within the same tool that you're authoring your content in, and publish your content directly with the ability to make those type of changes. So that's it for the demo. Let's go back to the presentation. So that's how it's done, like a boss. You can develop your PDFs like a boss using the native PDF engine within AEM Guides. So if you want some more information, I've included a couple different links here which you can scan, which will give you the links to these. There's an expert session on native PDF publishing essentials, which goes over a lot of the things we talked about today, but even in even more details. And just so you know, there's another one of those sessions that I think that's coming up. So by the time DITAWorld happens, there might be a couple videos covering native PDF development within AEM Guides. And then also there's a tutorial that's also available in case you want to follow those steps that I used for adding that numbering for the different section levels. Hopefully these links will be helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. And thanks again. Enjoy the rest of DITAWorld 2023.